friend of mine once told me there's only two ways to get inside the ropes at a PGA Tour event. One, you either make it as a player, which, as everybody who follows golf knows, are a very small percentage of people who play golf who are good enough, talented enough, and work hard enough to make it to the PGA Tour as a player. And the other is to carry a bag, meaning you're a caddy. Both of those are dreams of many people who love and enjoy this game, watch golf on TV. To be inside the ropes as a player and or a caddy would be something that they would just love to experience just once in their lifetime. Well, my guest today hasn't only experienced that in his lifetime, he's done it as a career for the past 20-plus years. He is a tour veteran caddy. He took a shot at playing for a while. He's a very good player, and he has caddied for numerous winners on the PGA Tour over his 20-plus year career. His name is Brent Henley, and he is currently caddying for Robert Garrigus as Robert looks to reestablish himself in the PGA Tour. He's been with Robert about 10 years. Prior to that, he was with Woody Austin for about 10 years as well, and most of you will remember the Presidents Cup when the Aquaman story, as we referred to it in today's show, which is probably the most or one of the most recognized moments in Presidents Cup history. And I'm not going to spoil it for anybody. I'm going to let Brent speak to that in the long version in his own words. But I met Brent roughly 30 years ago. He's one of the first people I met in Hilton Head. He was a great guy then, always fun to be around, and nothing has changed. It was a pleasure to sit down with him. I have not talked to him in a couple years. After we met in Hilton Head, he went back to Tennessee, and then we met again a few years later when we were both playing mini tours, as well as his brother Kip, who many of you know from Big Break fame, and he is also a caddy on the tour. But it was great to sit down with Brent, hear him tell some very, very funny, interesting, and cool stories. Really pulls back the curtain on the life of a caddy on the PGA Tour, how you manage the players based off their personality and work that dynamic for someone that you're spending more time with during the day, week, month, or year than many people spend with their spouse, as well as just the culture and the livelihood of what it's like to be out on the PGA Tour year after year, some of the changes, some of the things for the better, just about anything else you could possibly think along the lines of the game of golf. So very, very cool episode. I really enjoyed catching up with him. As I said, he's a wonderful guy. Everybody loves Brent Henley. And after listening to today's show, I'm sure you're going to agree and understand why. So let's give a big, big Golf 360 welcome to my guest today, PGA Tour veteran caddy and my good friend, Mr. Brent Henley. What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Golf 360 podcast. I'm the host, Pete Popovich. So you may be asking yourself, what is Golf 360? And Golf 360 is a show that was designed to introduce you to people associated with the game of golf to help you improve not only at your game, but also your life. Almost all of our guests are from within the industry in some way, shape, or form, but some of the guests we have are from outside the industry, and it mainly revolves around the business world with a few others scattered in here and there. Now, all of the guests that we have a few things in common. One, they all were highly successful and accomplished in their field. Two, each has something to pass along that will help you in your game and your life. And three, they were all more than willing to give back by passing along the things that they used to help them in their career, and even some of the mistakes that they made so that others don't make them in their journey. So I hope you find listening to them as enjoyable as I did interviewing them, and that each and every one of you benefits from the information that they so willingly and graciously pass along. Hey, everybody, I want to give a big shout out to a new sponsor of the Golf 360 podcast, and that's Affinity Wealth Management Group. We all work exceptionally hard for our money, and none of us can afford to let that fall into the dark abyss of the big box financial service firms and their jack of all trades and master of none mantra, which basically means you become a number within a cookie cutter model that's also often accompanied by massive fees. Your future deserves more than average returns and little attention. At Affinity Wealth Management, they ensure that your financial goals receive highly individualized, tailored attention from experts, not just advisors, who are in the industry to be great and not average. As a client of Affinity Wealth, you receive a customized solution to your customized life, keeping in mind your family's financial situation, values, and risk tolerance. Call Affinity Wealth today for a no-cost consultation with one of their experts at 724-754-8200. Again, that's 724-754-8200. Or you can also check them out on the web at www.affinitywealthmg.com. That's AFFINITYWEALTHMG.com. This podcast is brought to you in part by Just Thrive Probiotic. You may be surprised to learn that your digestive system is the key to creating and maintaining the quality of your physical, mental, and emotional health, and it's one of the body's most essential systems. That's why the majority of nutritionists today highly recommend probiotics as an indispensable nutritional supplement. As a discriminating consumer, you've probably been searching for a probiotic that is proven, potent, and effective, and you found it. Just Thrive is your best choice for maintaining a healthy lifestyle. Just Thrive Probiotic captures the power of hundreds of thousands of years of nature's design with a specialized bacillus strain formulation that guarantees survivability through the stomach and upper digestive system. Supports optimum gut health, digestive health, immune health, and delivers antioxidants. Great for adults, kids, and the whole family. Use promo code GOLF360 at www.thriveprobiotic.com for 10% off your order. All right, here with superstar PGA Tour caddy, Mr. Brent Henley. Brentley, thanks for coming on the show, buddy.
Hey, Pete. How you guys doing? Appreciate you having me. Hadn't heard from you in a while, a few years.
Yeah, that's right. It's the golf world, there's less than 6 degrees separation. I was thinking about that when we met before, when we were talking about getting you scheduled. It goes all the way back to 1992 when you were
Really?
at Harbortown. Yep, I came down as an intern, worked at the Plantation Club,
Right.
and you were at Harbortown.
Was it 92? Good Lord, 30 years ago? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's right. I left the island, I think, in 94. I think it's when I finally got off the rock, they call it. Hilton Head. Way broker than I was when I went there.
Yeah, you could spend it fast here. In fact, one of the guys that we both know that wanted me to ask you was who broke more clubs back then, you or Brian Cook?
Oh, it wasn't even close. I had Cookie mashed. He wasn't even in the same. He's a rookie compared to. I got Hall of Fame skills when it came to breaking clubs.
I remember when the fire chief used to come pick up clubs, and there'd be a whole bunch of them, all Brent Henley.
That's where half my paycheck went every week from Hilton Harbortown. I just give it right to the club guy. Put me another shaft in this. I hardly ever played with a full set of clubs down there, so you guys had an advantage on that. I'd have like a junior set, a wedge, and then the 9-iron be broke, the 8-iron be broke, and I'd have a wedge 7, 5, 6.
You can. We talked before we came on. You can give Ted Scott some shit because, like I said, he was supposed to come on about 6 weeks ago, and I understand scheduling. And you guys, when you get a phone call, you got to go. And I'm not going to give him shit on the air, but you can when you see him to say, hey, you're no longer. You had your chance at being the first caddy to be on the Golf 360, but I'm the king of that now.
Shoot, I mean, you're talking about a guy that's won majors, not me.
Mm-hmm.
You still got to have him on. He's a good guy, he's a good talker.
Yeah,
a lot of great stories.
I follow him on social media, of course, and he's always training. He's always working on his game when he's not caddying. He's always doing something. It's like that guy never sits down.
And it's hard to catch that guy in a bad mood. I don't know if I've ever seen him in a bad mood. He's always so happy and lucky, and he's fun to be around. Just kind of inspirational to watch what he does.
You were a very good player in your own right, and I think you won the Tennessee Assistants Championship going back years ago?
Did I win that? I can't remember. I think I might have got beat. I think I finished second in it one year. I don't think I ever won it. I don't know. I won a couple of things, but I don't think I ever won that.
I mean, you were a very good player in Hilton Head. You're a good player in Tennessee, and you played for a living. You took your shot at fame and glory. What was the transition, or when was a changeover from you to go from pursuing playing as a career and going into caddying?
I basically given up and was going to give lessons here at the driving range in Chattanooga and played a Hooters event with Garrett Willis. And Garrett Willis had just came out of college at East Tennessee State, was an All-American, great player from Knoxville, and I played with him. And we kind of got to be buddies. And my brother had already played with him, so he knew him. So we kept in touch for a long time. And I was back giving lessons, and he got his web.com card, I guess, back then, nationwide, whatever, Corn Ferry now. He got that card. He locked that up at Q school, and he called me. This is kind of a long story. I guess it doesn't matter. So he called me and said, will you come out and caddy on the nationwide? I go, no way. It's not enough money out there and traveling. I can't sleep 5 or 6 guys in a hotel room and try to make ends meet. And he kept plugging along. I said, but I think I could help you. I think I would be okay caddying for you. Because he get a pretty shitty attitude sometimes. And he was a hell of a player. I mean, really good, especially when he needed to be. He was really good under pressure. So anyway, he kept plugging along, and I kept begging me to come out there, and I wouldn't do it. And finally went to Q school to get back then you just play the 3 rounds, and if you finish top 30, you got your card. Well, Kilt caddy for him there, my brother Kilt. And the next to last day, he shot like 62 to pretty much lock up his tour card. And he called me that night, and he said, hey, you want to come caddy on the PGA Tour for me? It's January. Yeah, I'm not giving any lessons. I'm not making any money. He said, I tell you what, I'll pay you $1,000 a week, and 5, 7, 10%. And I went, $1,000 a week? Hell yeah, I'll come caddy for you. I was making like $200 a week down here at the driving range, giving out golf balls and giving about 2 lessons a week. And I thought, $1,000 a week? I forgot I had to pay all my expenses. And I just thought, man, I'm going to be rich. It's way more money than I've ever made. And I said, yeah, I'll do it. And Kip called me back after I said that to him. Kip was with him out in Pine Springs. That's where they were at Q school. Right after I hung up with Garrett, Kip called me and said, Brent, you're going to kill him if you caddy for him. He wanted Kip to caddy at first, and Kip said no. He was still wanting to play. And Kip said, man, he's psycho on the golf course. He's mean. Off the golf course, he's great. He's a good dude. He's fun to be around. But on the golf course, he's crazy. You're going to kill him. And I said, I don't care, Kip. He's paying me $1,000 a week. I'm going to go out there. I'm ready. He goes, okay. So about a month went by before the first tournament. We go taking off out to Tucson, Arizona. The first tournament Garrett's in. And first tournament I ever caddied. His first tour event he ever played. We end up in the last group on Sunday. And it's, he plays his ass off. And that night they predicted rain. On Sunday, it might rain out the whole tournament. And Kip called me. He said, Brent, if they rain this tournament out, y'all finish solo second. You're going to make like $25,000. And I went, no way. I said, I want to play. He goes, you're crazy. Just rain it out and just take the 3 rounds and go. I said, Kip, if we tee it off tomorrow, Garrett's going to win this golf tournament. I said, he's unbelievable right now. And Kip said, okay. And sure enough, the next day we came out in the desert and there was no rain whatsoever. And we go around there plugging along, and Willis gets to the 18th hole, and he's got to make a 6-footer up the hill to win the golf tournament, and he makes it. So my first tournament I ever caddied, his first tournament I ever played in, we won. And I called Kip, and I said, man, I'm going to be worth like $10 million in about 2 years. This guy's going to win every golf tournament. I said, it's so easy. I just couldn't see how people could beat him. And that didn't last very long.
I remember that because Todd Behringer lived in Bluffton back then, and we used to play quite a bit. We were very close, and he's actually came on the show not long ago, but I guess he and Garrett used to have money games, and Todd used to just beat him ragged. And then when Garrett got his card and Todd was still on the nationwide back, it just ate him. He was so pissed.
There was a lot of people surprised by Garrett, but Garrett, when he got confident, when he wanted to play, he was tough, and nerves didn't bother him whatsoever. His nerves were so good, but he really didn't like golf that much. He ended up firing me 4 weeks after that, after we won the first event his rookie year. We'd only missed one cut, played pretty good at Pebble and finished like top 20. And he fired me on the range at Palm Springs a year after, or 4 weeks after we had won. After we'd shot 65 the first round. We shot 7 under the first round. He fired me on the range. I walked over to Kenny Perry was standing there, and I walked over to him after we played that morning. He's hitting balls. I went over to Kenny. I go, I just got fired. He goes, what? He said, y'all just won. He said, he's 4 weeks on the tournament. He's already won a golf tournament. I said, I know. He said, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
But that was Garrett, wasn't it? I mean, I never met him to hang out or anything, but of all the people I know, like you that knew him and others, that said he was volatile in that way.
Kilt was right. Garrett and I almost come to blows 10 times in that 4 or 5 weeks. I mean, he would say some mean stuff on the golf course and call you everything in the book. And I mean, he'd cuss your family for having you and stuff like that.
Wow.
And I mean, I'd say, Garrett, you say one more word, dude, we're going to be fighting right here in the middle of the fairway. People are going to have to separate us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it was. But then we go back off the golf course, and he was fine. I mean, I was staying with him and staying in the houses with him, hotel with him. But it was hard for me I've never been able to take the beating that some players want to give. I always fight back, which has cost me a bag or two, and probably still costing me. But it's hard for me to swallow my tongue.
What was it? That was around 2001, wasn't it? 2002?
Yeah, 2001, yeah.
And that was right after, because, I mean, you and I knew each other in Hilton Head going way back, but then I ran into you and your brother and a whole bunch of other characters we used to hang out with on the DP tour that Jack Slocum, his dad ran. That was a blast. And we had a great bunch of guys on that.
That was fun. That's how I got there. That was after Garrett. I caddied for Garrett in those 4 or 5 weeks and made, a $50-something thousand check the first week. That's what I paid to get into the DP tour and play on. I went back and tried to play, and I went to Q school. The only time I ever went to Q school was after Garrett paid me that money. I paid for Q school and the DP tour, and that was the 1 year I kind of tried to make it. And then after that, I went back and got the job with Woody Austin.
How did that come about with Woody?
Man, the guy's caddying for Brandon Hagee now. Corby Siegel was caddying for Bob Burns, who lived in Knoxville. And so him and Garrett played practice rounds with every day. So I got to know Corby as caddy, and I just kept telling him, hey, man, if anybody comes open, keep me in mind, which that always happens. It just every caddy tells the other caddies, and most of the time it don't work out. Well, Corby called me, and he said, hey, I think Woody will hire you. I said, yeah, I'll go back out there. Woody Austin? And he said, yeah. I said, Woody was about out of the game at the time. He'd already lost his card. He was struggling to get it back. He finished 125, even though he played rookie of the year. He had a couple health problems, and his game was struggling. And Woody hired me. Unknown, and it happened to be the year after Woody hired me at Tucson, where Garrett and I had won the year before. So, and when I saw Woody hitting it, I went, man, this guy can still play. He was early 30s, but he was always a late bloomer. Woody, I think he won Rookie of the Year. He's 31 years old or something on the PGA Tour. Yeah, how about that now?
I remember that.
And he luckily hired me, and we went on a 10-year run. The first year we lost our card, went back to Q school. He was still struggling, but man, you could see he could play. He just needed confidence, and he didn't have any. His confidence was down in his shoes somewhere. And I just kept plugging along and telling him how good he was. He just wasn't realizing he steadily got better and better.
How do you go about that? Because you wear many hats as you spend arguably more time with a player than their spouse does,
For
and
sure.
you get to see them in the most stressful situations. So their personality and for good and for bad come out. How do you go about doing that for a player? Because you're the most important piece of equipment outside of themselves that they've got.
Yeah, I mean, you just find out what makes them tick. You know what makes them go. What makes them you can't always stroke their ego. Sometimes you got to get pissed at them and tell them to get their head up and let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Woody was awesome to me as a person on the golf course. We never got to where he argued or got mad at me. I mean, it might have happened 3 or 4 times. And I would just tell him, man, let's go, Woody. That guy can't beat you. There ain't no way that guy can beat you. And just keep build him and build him and build him.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, just like you do anything, you can't whip a dog all the time in person or something. They're eventually going to cower. But you just work on their brain. Yeah, Garrigus didn't need much. He was so good. Woody needed stroking. So hey, it's each his own how you do it. I don't know what the secret was or is.
Well, there's an old saying for caddies on what is it? Show up, shut up, and keep up. But
Yeah,
you do that. Did you
don't
develop
throw up.
right? did you develop somewhat of that ability just growing up and being able to read people like that, or just
Yeah, I
from
think
playing and being around golf and playing all the time?
yeah, you learn. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't work anymore. The show up, keep up, and shut up. I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
want to talk out there, and that's what you should do. If you're on the golf course for 5.5 hours, as soon as he hits that shot, I want to talk about everything but golf. And me and my brother both, we don't mind talking on this podcast, and I can shoot the shit about anything if I have to, just to keep the mind off of it. And then you get 10 yards from the ball, you get them back on, you get their brain back on golf. Because if you sit there for 5 hours like a U.S. Open, and everything's on edge in a U.S. Open, you come off a golf course at a U.S. Open or Augusta, and you're just beat because you've thought so, and it's brain beat. It's not physical, but it comes into physical.
Mm-hmm.
If you're just sitting there because you're always on edge and you're always thinking in a U.S. Open Masters, it's always an X shot can cost you the whole thing. You can make a 10 at those tournaments, not at most tournaments. So you turn the brain off, and then you turn it back on when it's ready to go.
How much of the job is managing the player? Like in poker, where you're managing or you're playing against the person, you're not so much playing against the cards.
Well, it's according. I mean, it's according. I've always said a caddy's job is not to get a player to shoot 61 or 62. A caddy's job is to keep a player from shooting 75 or 76 and get him to shoot 71 or 72.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they're going to shoot 61 or 62, the caddy needs to get the hell out of the way and shut up.
Right.
Because they're in that zone. You can only mess them up, and you got to know when to do that. You got to know when not to get in their ear. But when they're a couple over, I think it's a caddy's job to get him back in the game and get him in a house where you got another day to fight. Is always been my thought on that.
What can you not naming a player that you've done that with, but can you give an example of a situation where maybe they're not paying attention, they're not engaged?
I do it with Garrigus all the time. But I'm still caddying a little bit for RG, and I mean, he gets lost in everything. He gets very unfocused, and you got to just tell him, hey man, we got to clock back in here. And I'd give him little tasks like, okay, we got to play these next 3 holes in 1.5 under par.
Mm-hmm.
You shoot 200, I'll give you $20. You shoot 1 under, you pay me $20 or for the next 3 holes, and make him grind outside the grind. You know, I know they're playing for $1 million, but it's still, if you're doing it every week, it's still, you can get your mind shut off all
Yeah, you're desensitized to it.
the time. Yeah, it just doesn't, you know, I mean, we were playing in Auburn, and it was hot. I mean, it was scorching hot. And Auburn was an alternate tournament to another, so it was a small purse. Garrigus had been playing really good for the whole year, but we were playing bad there. And we'd already made the first cut, and this is when they had the 2 cuts. So
Mm-hmm.
if you finished last if you missed the second cut, you still made money, you still got points and all that. Well, we're coming up 18, and we're right on the bubble of making the second cut. We both know it. We're not talking about it. We both know it. And we're going up through there, and it's hot. And he said, man, he's in the fairway. No, he hits it in the bunker by the green in 2, par 4. And we know we get up and down it's going to be close to getting in. If we don't get up and down, we're definitely not getting in. And he looks at me, he goes, man, should I just not get this ball up and down and let's miss this second cut and make, because we weren't talking about maybe $50 to $100 difference if he made the cut and finished last after making the cut. It was only going to mean $50 or $100 to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, he said, it's hot and I'm tired, and we played 3 or 4 in a row. And I said, man, I thought the same thing, RG. I hate to tell you that. I mean, I hate to say it. Think about missing a cut just because we're tired and we kept talking about it. And he's figuring out it's our shot. And he's climbing in a bunker. And I said, I tell you what, RG, let's just make this bunker shot or get it up and down. Whatever happens, happens. We still might not make the second cut, but let's fight hard. He goes, okay. And he blasts out to a foot and taps it in for par. We go in, we make the cut on the number. And we're kind of like, oh, well. So we go out early the next day, and he shoots 62, and we finished 8th and made about $100-something thousand. I go, how stupid are we for thinking? That's how, how you can get desensitized.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, we were thinking about blowing this cut, and here you are making $100,000 and finishing top 10 again. I mean, it just, the things you go through when you got success and then you see the failures after, it's just hard to fathom how far or how close they are together.
And you have caddied, as you said, you've gotten guys when nobody really knew of them, or in Woody's case when people knew, but he had dropped back. And
yeah.
So you've seen guys good to struggle to back to good. Is what you're describing where they get a laissez-faire, desensitized to the situation they're in? Is that common amongst PGA Tour players in general?
I don't know. I mean, you hear a few dudes doing that. I don't know. I wouldn't think it's that common because they've all fought so hard to get out there. I mean, maybe the bigger names that's got $10, $20 million in the bank and they're down on the end of the cut line, maybe. But it's not talked about very often if it does happen.
Yeah, I'm sure that wouldn't be good to get out with, especially contract years and stuff like that.
Yeah.
One of those big sponsors hearing that you're missing cuts on purpose because you don't want to grind another day. It's not going to be good for negotiation.
No, I mean I remember playing with Mike Weir, and Mike Weir was on top of it, and we were paired with him when I was with Woody, and we're like 35th place. And we're grinding to finish 33rd. Woody and we've made a cut. We're ready to go. And I remember Mike Weir's caddy coming up beside me. He goes, man, this sucks. I go, what? He goes, this 35th, 35th, 40th place back in the back of the pack coming up. He said, this is just awful caddying this way. And I go, damn it, dude. We're fighting our ass off to finish one more spot ahead of wherever we're going to finish and make an extra $1,000. And I remember thinking, man, I hope I never get that attitude with this. And then I got it in Auburn for that 1 week. It's kind of eye-opening when it does happen to you.
Would you say it's inevitable just because of the lifestyle with the travel and the different?
I mean, your vacation's home.
Right.
People say, man, that must be great. And it is. The travel, once you get there, it's getting there is hard, and then once you get there, it's easy. Like I've told people, it's like I've never had a job for the past 20 years doing this. I didn't miss it. I mean, I love getting on the road and meeting people and having another chance to make a lot of cash and getting a hunt. There's just nothing more exhilarating than caddying, and to me, than caddying in a hunt like that. So
when you do get so let's take the Woody and when you guys were grinding there to get up from 35th to 33rd, that's when you're making your money, keeping them in it and not letting them waver and say, screw it, I'm just going to pack it in the last few. But how, and you did bring up, it's very exhilarating when you're in the hunt. So you're in the last group or you're in the last three groups of the final day. Is it,
right.
is it that you're putting your skills to the test for you and your player, or is it the energy that the gallery brings?
For sure, the energy of the gallery. Just to think, to me, it's the thought of something I always wanted to do as a player and never had the ability. And now here I've got the guy with the ability, and to think that I've got a small part in helping him get to the level I wanted to get to and the level he wants to get to. It's just, it's incredible. I mean, it's to think that you got just a little bit of help for this guy to maybe get him to win this golf tournament that he might not have won without you. He might have won by more without you. You don't know. But, just, but to think that you got something to say and something that you and I have both fought for through our career. You and I have both tried to play for a living and do that. So that's the exhilarating part of it. I mean, it just, you get nervous and we have trouble adding the numbers up and telling your player to breathe, and and you can't breathe. It's fun. It's so much fun.
It's a definite high.
Oh yeah.
And it's a letdown when I've been in enough tournaments that when you know you're not going to win, it's like deflating a balloon.
Oh yeah, it's rough. I mean, you just saw what happened to Kip and JB and Houston, or where were they last week? West Palm Beach.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're in the last group, and JB shoots 78 or 9. They're in second place, and he finishes 50th or something. And it's a demoralizing thing when you can't help, and you just see it, your guy unraveling, and you're saying everything and nothing's working.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, good Lord, this is not much fun. It takes a lot out of you when that happens.
For some of the players that you and your brother have caddied for, because you guys have both had multiple wins as caddies and as that team. When players stumble like that, and you're talking about the best players in the world, do you find that is it just, hey, that's the way life is, you're not going to play good every day, or is it, did nerves finally get to somebody? Is it something else? What do you see?
I mean, you see everything. You see, you try to talk them out of their nerves, and you know it's their nerves. I mean, another thing, a player needs to be up front when they're talking to a caddy about that. You know, are you just swinging out of the bat? Do you feel like you're a little nervous? What's going on here? Sometimes you have to come up and say it. So simple stuff can fix that. You know, just take some big deep breaths before you get over this shot, just to calm them a little. Stuff like that a caddy don't notice that. You don't want to say it all of a sudden in the last group if you had never said it. You know, you don't want to put the thought of nerves in his head,
right,
if he doesn't have them. But if you tell him to start doing something different, he's going to go, why the hell are you making me do something different? You know. So a player needs to be upfront about nerves, or if it's their golf swing. A lot of them won't. They don't want to admit it, but everybody's got them. You're going to have to do one or the other.
You know, it's interesting you say that, because I remember, I forget what year it was, like 04 or 05 or something like that. And I was at first stage at Jennings Mill, and I was, I think, leading going into the final day. I was playing good. And I called a guy who was, he was an old timer. He had played won the National Club Pro in the mid 60s and runner up next plate, did the Mondays back then and just never had the money to get out there full time. And I called him just cause I needed to get it out of my head and just say it to somebody. And he said something very interesting to me that completely changed the perspective on the nervous issue. And he said, look, I've been there plenty of times. I know exactly what you're going through. He said, but look at it more as that you're excited to get out there, cause you know you're playing well, or else you wouldn't be in the position you're in. So, and when I thought of it that way, I'm like, yeah, it is excitement. And if you let it get to you negative, like, am I going to mess up? You're done. But if you look at it like, hey, like you and Garrett did in that event you won in Tucson, like, hey, no, let's get it on tomorrow. We're ready to go.
Yeah.
It's going well. We're doing it right. We're in a rhythm. You know.
Yeah, this is good. Yeah.
Take it while you got it, because it is fleeting.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. I don't know. I lost my train of thought there. I had something to say about that, but I forgot. I'm sorry.
Well, it didn't work real good for me. I lipped out 7 times and shot 76 and missed.
You didn't get through?
No.
Holy smokes.
That was the year it rained. I don't know how it rained.
I think
inches
I played.
and
That's
inches.
the one Q school I went to.
Like you were
at Jennings Mill.
Yeah, we were.
Brunswick.
You were plugging 4-irons from 230 yards.
Yeah, and I only hit it about 210 in the air back then anyway. So it was playing long.
I remember I played with Courtney Brisson the first 2 or 3 days, and you know Courtney, don't you? Courtney seems to know everybody. And he talked so much that it kept me completely my mind off of what I was doing.
Yeah,
I think I was 11 under or something through 3 rounds, and then I didn't have Corey the last day, and my mind was all on
golf.
Shit.
That's what I'm saying. You got to get your mind off of it for that walk from the fairway or the tee to your driver to where you hit your drive, then clock back in. That's what you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm convinced that nerves are more worried about, if I miss this, what is this person over here going to think? This person over thinks I'm choking. It's not about what you're thinking. It's about what somebody else is thinking about you. It's what gets you. It's what I always thought about it. Also with temper. My temper, I figured that out working for Woody, breaking all those clubs and stuff. I figured out why I did it, and Woody did it too. I wanted people to believe I was better than I actually was.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I mishit a shot, I wasn't mad at me, really. I was like, I'm going to break this club to make that guy, my opponent over there, think I was better than I should have been able to hit that shot. But in all reality, I couldn't. I didn't hit a shot. So I was more thinking about what somebody else thought about me than what I thought about myself. And I think that's what happens. I saw that with Woody. Woody was an incredible ball striker, an incredible player. But when he got mad, I think it was because of what somebody else was.
Yeah, I mean, how often did they play that clip of him breaking that? Was it his putter? Coming off
at Harbortown.
Yeah, at Harbortown. Was it 14, I think, 14, the par 3, wasn't it?
That was the year before I got him. That was the year. He did that the year. And then after that, I mean, he lost his car. He swears he didn't know that putter was bent. Even when he was doing it, he said he handed his caddy, and they're walking up 15th fairway, and his caddy goes, "Well, what do you want to putt with?" He goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, you just bent your putter double." And I went, "You had to know it was bent, Woody."
Did you have that conversation with him that you shared something similar and you kind of figured it out, or did you figure that out after?
I figured it out later, because I remember my mom and dad coming to watch me play golf, and I'd get mad, and Mom would come home and go, "Brent, that's embarrassing to go watch you play golf. You're yelling, screaming," and that embarrassed me, and I felt horrible. But I'd say, "Mom, just don't come watch me. I'm gonna get mad. I don't like, I don't like losing." And then I had to apologize to her once I started working for Woody later in life. I go, "Man, it is embarrassing, because the person inside, like with Woody, I know what kind of great human being Woody Austin is, but people outside looking in didn't realize that because of his temper. But it's a very misunderstood guy.
I don't think there's a lot of people in general who are willing to, one, chase their dream, two, put themselves out there in doing so, and that they're going to give it a shot and forsake everything else that they have outside of maybe their spouse and their kids. They tell their, I want to do this. This is a dream. But then once they get there, to be under that spotlight, I mean, you're on national television with millions of people watching you. And I don't know if many people can comprehend what that's like. I mean, I remember the first decent sized
Even as a
tournament.
player or as a caddy?
As both.
Yeah.
More so the player to the point that you're making, that they're wanting to people who are watching them to understand that as you said, that they could hit that shot when they just didn't. And
Yeah.
it's their way to manifest that.
Yeah.
But
So
then,
this is,
it's in your head until you get used to it that, hey, I'm on TV, or, there is a gallery, there's a lot of people watching. And I don't know if a lot of people I mean, they see it, but it becomes like background noise.
right.
But the
Right.
general public doesn't understand it, especially when you're putting it into something that you worked your entire life for.
I agree. I mean, that's why I say it's a fine line. People say, well, this guy's coming out of college. He's a can't miss. He's gonna be on the PGA, and he's gonna win on the PGA. And I go, just hold on a minute. You don't know when it's gonna click in your brain of, wait a minute, this may be too big a stage for me. And it happens to everybody. The only person that hadn't happened to is Tiger Woods, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only person that went. You realize all of a sudden I've got to play my best to compete. I don't, when you're in high school, like I think that's when mine ran out. In high school, I didn't have to play my best. I knew I was going to beat you. And then in college, I started thinking, man, I got to play good to beat this guy. And then when I turned pro, I went, I don't know if my best is even good enough to beat this guy. And you start losing your confidence the higher you go. So you just don't know. You don't know whose brain is going to be able to process that and make it and do it, and whose is going to shut down and get in the way when it comes down to that.
Along those lines, do you see it as getting comfortable in the environment, because the higher you go,
For
the
sure.
more variables you have thrown at you?
For sure. And another thing is, you see the Jordan Spieths and the Ricky Fowlers and the Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson, all those guys that have made it, got in a couple of PGA events because of their good college career.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get in that PGA event, you're not playing with the top guys. You're playing with the guys in the back of the bus of the PGA. So, and to me, if those guys that get that chance in college, and Jordan Spieth got it in high school, was getting invited to the Byron Esslin a couple of times at like 15, 16 years old. No matter whether he's going to make it or not, he gets on the tour with these guys playing this. He's an amateur, and he sees, wait a minute, you think you're so far away, and then you play with him, you go, because you're only seeing the guys on TV, and they don't miss shots. They're playing the best that week.
Right.
But then Jordan gets put in there, or all those guys, and playing 3 or 4 tour events, and they get their confidence and go, wait, I'm not that far behind these guys. I think I can beat some of these guys. So it just makes it easier for them to succeed, I think. Because, I thought I was so far away. And then once I got up and started caddying, I go, you know what? I wasn't that far away. Obviously, I couldn't have made it, but I wasn't as far away as I thought it was, because I finally saw some guys that weren't playing perfect that week.
Mm-hmm.
So. Well,
I remember seeing that because when we played that DP tour, Boo Weekley he won like 10 times that year. He was on fire, and if he didn't win, he was in the top 3. And then he goes he gets his tour card, and I think he made like 1 or 2 cuts. He was so out of his element.
Yeah.
Goes down to Nationwide for a couple years, and then he goes back to the tour, and it's like, okay, I know what's coming, so now I can be prepared for it.
That's Boo when he got on tour the first time, he was out of his element, and he couldn't even be himself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he didn't succeed. He was so scared to be himself. He's just a good old country boy, like to drink beer and play golf, and was really good at it. And then once he got out there that first year, and they weren't accepting him, I think people were, they actually made fun of Boo, as bad as it is, because he wasn't a norm. He'd wear rain pants.
Wear those rain pants back then.
Yeah. And so I think once he went back to the web tour, he thought, you know what, screw those guys. I'm going to be myself, and I'm going to go out there and play great golf. And that's exactly what he did. He came back out there with a different attitude. He knew he was good enough to beat them.
Mm-hmm.
And he got to be his old beer drinking country boy, fishing, grab his fishing pole when he got done and go fishing on a golf course. He got back to being Boo, and then, which is awesome. It's fun to watch him rise like he did, because you and I got to play with him on those mini tours and see him before he got to that point.
Right.
A few guys on that team. That was a pretty tough one we played in, by the way, that DP tour.
For me, that was, I was green as could be going. I had never been any thing. I'd played that Florida Open, and that was back when Petrovic and Gary Nicklaus and those guys were the top mini tour guys.
Yeah.
But that was just it showed me how much better I had to get.
Yeah. Had to work at it.
Yeah, I mean you're playing in Hilton Head area, and there were good players here, but nothing like what you see when you go play for a living.
World class players. You know, Boo was on our tour, and Jason Bone. And, I mean, I don't think Bubba played.
Bubba came the year after we played. Yeah, Ryan Armour was there.
Ryan was with us. There was 5 or 6 guys that made it. I think Steve Gilly won most of the ones that I played in. He went on a row.
I was surprised that he didn't get his tour card as low as he used to shoot.
There's a perfect example.
I think he's a superintendent now.
He is. Mm-hmm. He was a great guy and a hell of a golfer. But, man, he won 4 or 5 of them against Boo and those guys. The one series I played in, he was the big money winner.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's what I was saying earlier. There was a point in time where he wasn't a big fish in a little pond. He was a little fish in a big pond.
Right.
And I think going from that kind of tour to the big tour was when it shut off for him.
For a lot of people, because that is going to be an adjustment. Do you see that is it the players who have been in the spotlight from the time they were at junior golf through college and into the pro ranks, that they handle that or can stay focused much better and navigate that, as opposed to someone who doesn't have a name and hasn't been exposed to it as much?
But you still see those guys miss. The guys that were so-called flops, the Ty Tryons, and I mean, you even look at somebody like Michelle Wee. When she came out, 13, 14 years old, you thought, well, they ain't nobody going to beat this girl for 20 years.
Right.
And she kind of fell on her face when she first went on LPGA. She eventually got it going. But there's just, I don't know. It's hard to say what person is going to be able to do that or not.
I'm speaking just from afar and what I watched, but I thought that whole Michelle Wee thing with pushing her to play against the men she was the most mismanaged athlete that I think I've ever seen.
I don't disagree with that. I think they pushed her a little too hard, but it was all about the show. It got her, huge endorsements and stuff. It made her life, but I don't think it's ever been a normal life.
I think if she would have went to the ladies tour and focused on dominating that tour, that she probably there was a good chance that she would have.
I agree.
Outside of the injuries, right? Because she had that talent, right?
You learn to win, at that level. And she was never going to beat the men. I didn't care how many times she was never going to win a golf tournament in the men's event. It's just strength-wise, it wasn't possible. But and so she wasn't learning to win, like you say, before, when she should have been learning to win.
Yeah, at that developmental age, when you're transitioning out of teenager into early adulthood.
She might have dominated the sport like Tiger did.
And you know as well as anybody. I mean, you've seen it. You went through it with Woody. You get him up there, and then it takes playing well, and then the confidence just starts to like a pebble turning into an avalanche.
That's exactly what it is.
And I don't think she ever got that.
No, I agree. I mean, she eventually won a few, but I still think in her career, I would think it was called not a flop, but definitely underachievement for her talents. And who knows what did that? Was it pushing her against the men, or was it health reasons? Was it her just not wanting to play, burning out, whatever?
I always said that because we're close enough to the same age that there were probably a little after us is when you had a lot of people who started focusing on golf, specializing really early, 9, 10 years old, right? And they were dominant in AJGA. They played at the best colleges, but they never had the careers that they were predicted to have. And I always said you can't do something exclusively and have the wherewithal mostly to go ahead and compete at that level when you've just fried yourself. And it's just life. You want to do other shit in life. And if you play golf for 20 years and now you're 27 or 8 and now you got a fair amount of money and it's like, okay, I can go travel here with my friends or my family, or I can go work hard on my game and make another $500,000. Which one's it going to be? Well, I got plenty of money in the bank. Let me go have some fun because I haven't had it my entire life.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the way I felt like I did my whole life. I didn't have the money to go on spring break with my buddies to Florida or Hilton Head, and I was working at golf. I thought,
Mm-hmm.
and just so you kind of lose some stuff, but over the time of you playing all that golf and stuff, now you look back and go, oh, man, it was so worth it to do that and meet the people I've met and the connections, and I mean it's ended up being my livelihood. I didn't know it was going to be in this form. I didn't know it was going to be in a caddy form, but or giving lessons or whatever. But it was all that work you did when you were 7, 8 years old. That's when people say they don't deserve the money they're making. Bullshit. They're the most underpaid athletes in the world. They have, whether they knew it or not, at 6, 7, 8 years old, they're going to the golf course like we were with my father playing, and we didn't know we were working then, but we were working at 7 or 8 years old, 9 years old. So are these guys, So once you do that, you've paid your dues to get that money. Same thing with any professional athlete in any sport. They've been working basketball. LeBron's been working since he's 6, 7 years old. Working. That's a job.
Right.
You didn't know it was. But
let me jump back into to managing players again. And if you took players of different personalities, so you take a guy like Woody who could get pretty fiery, and then how would the way that you go about it differ for a guy like if you had someone a lot more laid back, like a DJ or Freddie Couples type?
Well, I've had the two. I've had Garrigus, who is as laid back as it gets, and I had Woody that was fired up. You talking as a caddy? What do you do?
Yeah. Well, how do you navigate that situation to get to a similar goal of, hey, let's win this tournament. If we're not going to win, let's finish the best we possibly can.
Like I said earlier, you got to find out what drives them, what gets them motivated to do stuff, and hopefully you don't have to get to that part of it, but I don't know. God, that's a tough question to even think about, doesn't it? I mean, Gary, you had to fire up, and Woody, you had to calm down. And there's little techniques that you had to do. Sometimes I'd walk out 100 yards in front of Woody and let him sit back there and sulk and get it over with. That's how Woody drove himself, was to beat himself up. That was how he drove. And Garrigus is the other way around. Garrigus was cocky as can be. You had to sometimes bring him down and go, hey, wait a minute, we're gonna have to do some work here. This is not just going to come easy. And that's what we're going through now with him. He and I both got lazy about playing and caddying because we had made so much money so fast and just thought it was going to keep coming. And now and he wasn't working, and I was working less and making more money than I'd ever made. I thought, well, this is never going to end. And it's bit us in the ass now at 42, 43 years old. He's struggling to get back out there, and we're struggling to get him, his life straight.
Mm-hmm.
So
is that what's impressive about a guy like a Steve Williams, that he was able to do?
Get Tiger fired up.
Well, yeah, to get Tiger. I mean, you got Greg Norman, Raymond Floyd, and that he did it consistently. It seemed like forever until obviously he retired.
I personally think that maybe Bones has done a better job of doing Mickelson than I'm not sure that both these guys are going to win, no matter who's caddying. It could be my mother could caddy for both of them. They're going to win. Would somebody have won more or less? Probably. I wouldn't think so. I think, Bones found out what drives Phil and knew how to talk to Phil the way he did. And I think Tiger's so driven. They all are all driven, but Tiger's beyond. He's on another level. So how much he had to do. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you could say that one way or the other if they help or hurt. I mean, you think they help.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, and the player thinks they help, or those guys, you wouldn't be
Sure.
out there or with that player as long as they were.
And there's different people. You got to figure out which ones. What do you got to say to Tiger right here? He's won 85 times. What's he care about winning again or whatever? And Stevie had to figured out what made Tiger tick. Just like what takes Pete Popovich, what makes him tick. You have to figure that out. Everybody's different.
Mm-hmm. And that's just the beginning. You know, you figure it out, and then it's like, okay, now how do I get that done?
Yeah,
I got the base layer. Now how do I get the next layer?
Yeah. It's personalities clicking, just like friends and buddies. And I'm lucky to be the two dudes I've worked for the longest, almost 20 years between the two of us, Woody Austin and Robert Garrigus, and I'm both really good friends of mine. And have good connections, as is Tiger and Steve and Phil and Bones, and it's just the right personality. That's why you see, I guess, players bouncing around to caddy till they find the right guy.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Na was firing guys left and right when he came out on tour. And then he got Kenny Arms, brought Kenny Arms off of Kenny might have been caddying for Hell Irwin, had been caddying for Hell for a long time, and Kenny made him sign a contract. Hey, if you fire me in 2 months, you pay me for 6 months. That was the first one and only one I've ever heard about.
Wow.
And Kenny said, you pay me because he knew that Kevin was firing everybody so much. He was just going through caddies trying to find the right combination, wasn't doing any good. And then when Kenny and Kevin got together, it worked, and Kevin took off and is still going with Kenny, and they've been together 10 plus years. Personalities, it's clicking.
Mm-hmm. How do you, when you're dealing with people who are exceptionally talented and they're hardworking, like a Garrigus or a Woody, and they can hit shots that most people can't even vision. How do you know when to let them hit it and when to step in and say, hey, maybe this play here, have you considered this? How do you balance that?
It's again figuring it out with them. It's what they, it doesn't come overnight. It's not the first tournament. You figure it out over those years of what shots they look good to their eye and what shots don't, and figuring out how to tell them when they don't want to turn around and tell you, man, I just don't like where that pin's set. I don't want to fight this pin. They don't want to tell you that. You got to know when to go, hey, you see that tree 15 feet left of it, just let's hit it at it, thinking. And then sometimes you see some shots where they can pull off, and you let them go, turn them loose.
Mm-hmm.
I had Garrigus, who wasn't scared of any flags, and Woody, who played conservative a lot of times, didn't trust himself, even though he was a great ball striker. Sometimes he didn't trust his own skills, and you had to know, man. Like I'll tell Garrigus, if we're in the middle of fairway, 178 yards, and he's got an 8-iron, the wind's pins left, and it's a perfect club. I'll look at Garrigus and I said, you should be pissed if you don't make this. I said, this is perfect. This is a perfect club, perfect win. You should make it. You'd be amazed at how many times I'll be out there and go in when he hits on the green. It's just, you get them that extra little confidence that, hey, we're not looking to make birdie here. You should make this from 180 yards.
Were you on his bag was it Memphis when he was trying to get his first win?
That was right before me. He had the 3-shot, went into the league going into 18 and made triple.
Yes.
Got beat in the playoff. Yeah. Yep. That's kind of how I got the bag. He had his buddy on the bag. They called him Shoestring, and they'd had some success. And once he did that, he had Garrigus. That's a funny story. We were eating lunch that morning. Not before the tournament started. Maybe we were eating breakfast. And Garrigus sat down with him, and he and I got to be buddies. And he said, hey, I've got my card locked up for next year. He said, you got any interest in coming to work for me next year? I said, absolutely. Woody was on the downside of his career. Maybe I'd already quit Woody and I'd parted ways, I think, earlier. And I said, absolutely. I'll come. I'd love to. But he said, I got I got to get rid of Shoestring. I don't want to. He's my buddy, and I don't think he could do it. I don't think anybody else will hire him. He said, it's a tough decision, but unless something happens this week, I'm gonna have to get rid of Shoestring. That was the week after the Memphis thing, or not too long after the Memphis thing. And I'll be damned, I look up on the thing, and there's Garrigus plugging along. Wins the golf tournament while I'm sitting at home. We missed the cut. I've driven back home, and I'm telling my fiance, there's Garrigus. He's moving up the board, but he's going to hire me for next year. If Woody's lost his card, I'm going to get Robert for next year. And we're all happy. And he keeps plugging along, fifth, fourth, third. And sure enough, he comes to the 18th hole with a 3-shot lead again and manages to make par and win the golf tournament. And I went, oh, my stomach just sank to my stomach. I'm like, oh, I'm lost my only job. I don't know what I'm going to do now. And he called me after he got done. He said, man, I'm still want to hire you. I go, good Lord, you just won. And you finished second a couple weeks ago. I mean, you can't hire me now. And he goes, yeah, I know. And so his caddy ended up about 2 or 3 weeks later, ended up tearing his Achilles and had to set out the rest of the year. And that's how I got the job.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so Garrigus was on his way up when I got with him. He wasn't like he was struggling.
And then you guys won the Memphis tournament, didn't you?
Mm-mm. Oh, I won that with Woody.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah, before Garrigus. We were paired with Kip and Brian Gay in next to the last group. That in Memphis on Sunday, so that was something special.
And for those that don't know, your brother's been caddying for quite a while too. Did you get him out there, or did he get you out there?
He, like I say, he went with Garrett to Q school, and he knew more guys than I knew. I think once he saw the success I had, he started coming out there with guys. I think he came out with Jason Bone first, and then he got with Boo for a little while, and they didn't do any good. That's when Boo lost his card. So he kind of plugged along behind me. I don't know if either one of us got the other one out there, but once he saw what was going on with me, he thought, man, I might need to try this.
Do you have the brother sibling rivalry with who's got more wins and everything else the same way you guys do when you play golf or play cards or anything else?
I pull for them to finish second every year, every week, right behind us, or vice versa. First one and two. That Memphis tournament you're talking about, we were on the range. We were at dinner the night before. We're in the next to last group on Sunday, but Brian was 4 or 5 shots back, and Woody was 4 or 5 shots back. And Adam Scott and David Toms, who destroys Memphis every week or every year, are in the last group that far ahead of us. So there wasn't much chance of us either one winning. You thought, well, we're just going to finish top 10, have a good day. And I said, I tell you what, Kip, I said, if somehow one of our guys gets hot tomorrow and wins the golf tournament, why don't the other guy, whoever wins, kick the brother back $10,000? One of them's going to make. If it happens, somebody's going to make $100-something thousand. Why don't we just give the other brother $10,000 as a save? He goes, ooh, that's a lot. I go, Kip, one of us will make $100,000, and the other guys were in third and fourth place. The other guy's going to play pretty good too, and make a big check. I'd love to write you a $10,000 check. He goes, no, that's too much. Let's just make it 5. And I go, okay. So we get out there on the range the next day, and Brian's hitting balls, and Woody's hitting balls right beside Brian. Brian's hitting his little shots up there, and Woody is just hitting rocket. It's coming off his club, and it's different this day. He's over and goes, ooh, man, your guy's swinging at it pretty good. I go, yeah. He goes, let's make it 8,000. I go, you got it. And Woody goes out and shoots 62 and wins by 5 shots.
Jeez.
And I had to write Kip an $8,000 check in the parking lot as soon as we got done. But I was so happy to throw in a check. And I think Brian finished top 4 or 5 as well. So we had a good week.
That's pretty cool. Before we get too far off of Woody, I got to ask you, because I know a lot of people who know you and that are mutual friends of ours wanted me to ask you, and I can't go a podcast talking to you or catching up without asking about the Woody and the Aquaman incident. And I know you've probably been asked that a million times.
Yeah, but it's fun.
It's a great story, though.
Yeah, I mean, from day one since I'd caddied for Woody bitched about all they ever show of him is him being in that club over his head. And he'd had a great career already, but nobody would talk about that. All they talk about is his temper and being in that club, and he wanted to get rid of that moniker. I'm tired of seeing it. It's all people know me about. It's not right. And I go, you're right. So he plays his ass off, and we make the Presidents Cup. We finished second to PGA to Tiger, and it got us on the Presidents Cup. So we go to Montreal, to play the Presidents Cup, Americans against the world. And I don't know how long you want this story. Long, short?
Give the long one. Give all the details you can without it getting Woody pissed off at you.
Oh, no, Woody would never get mad. I've talked to him a bunch about it. So anyway, we're playing a match play against four ball against David Toms and Woody are playing Trevor Immelman and Rory Sabatini, and they're like 2 down going into the 14th hole. It's a par 4 you could drive it on, but there's water up by the green. And David, they hit first, and both of them knock it on the green. Immelman and Rory Sabatini. One of them's got about 15 feet per eagle, and the other one's got about 30. David Toms hits first, snap hooks it in the water with a driver. Woody hits, and he hits it. He pulls it, and we were hoping it was going to carry because it's going just left of the green, and it doesn't carry, but it lands right at the bank. But he's only maybe 25 feet, 30 feet from the hole, but he's in the water, and it's underwater. I mean, it's a good 3 inches underwater, 2.5, 3 inches. It's not. There's no part of the ball even close to showing. Well, we walk up there, and Woody's just like, I'm just going to drop it. I said, no, we can see it. I said, you got to hit it. I said, David's out of the hole. He's back there dropping from 150 yards trying to hold it. And I said, that's where we're going to have to drop. You're going to have. I said, and I grew up on a golf course in Chattanooga that used to flood all the time, me and Kilt. And we'd go out there on the range and hit balls out of water just to play around while we're out the golf course. So I knew you could move a ball out of 2 or 3 inches of water. You couldn't move it far, but you could move it a couple of yards. And that's all I thought. Well, if you just chop this out up on this bank, you'll have an easy pitch. You might be able to chip it in. You're 2 down. You're going to lose the hole if you don't make birdie. They're definitely going to make birdie. They got 2 eagle putts. And he's like, man, you know what? You got to try it, Woody. I mean, it's just a loss of hole. It doesn't matter. It's a match play. It's not going to matter if you make an 8 but it matters if you make a 3. And I finally talked him into taking off his shoe and my rain jacket. I luckily had the rain jacket in the bag. It wasn't even his. It was mine. And he goes climbing in there. And I didn't know that Woody didn't know how to hit the shot. You got to hit it like a plug a plug bunker line. Mm-hmm. You have to chop down on it hard. That's the only way to move it out of it. If you try to splash it out like a regular bunker shot, the club just skips off the water.
Do you have to shut the face down to get the leading edge to get into the water and before the hydroplane's off?
Yes. If you open the face, it just bounces off the water. Mm-hmm. If you hit it down on it, get the basically the splash splashes the ball out of the water.
Right.
Woody didn't know. And I didn't think anything about it. And he goes in there, and of course his weight's already on his right side because he's hitting to the uphill and there's 1 foot out of the water. And he takes this big long swing. As soon as he took it back, I went, oh. I knew he wasn't going to get out. I just thought, well, he's going to take a heck of a splash. Well, when he hit it, he lost his balance, so he kind of stepped back with the 1 foot that was out of the water. And when he did, he stepped on a rock and twisted his ankle. So that's why he went underwater. He went down. I thought, and you see the video times he comes out of that water, and I go walking down, and I'm laughing. I felt terrible for him, but it's the Presidents Cup, and we're losing the match, but we're winning the overall. And he comes out there cussing me. You asshole! I cannot believe you made me go in and hit that shot. I cannot believe it. He said, I'm the laughing stock of America now. Look what you've done. And I said, Woody, I'm laughing. I said, Woody, damn, nobody care. I said, I've made you a hero if you birdie these last 3 holes. That's exactly what I said. If you birdie the last 3 holes, you're a hero. Well, I didn't know we had 4 holes left. I thought we were on 15. It was 14. We were 2 down. We go to 14. Woody drives off. We go to 15 tee. Woody gets it up and down to make time with a par. Woody then birdies 16, 17, and 18 to tie the match. They were 2 down. They won 2 of the last 3 holes, including Woody making about a 12-footer for birdie on top of Rory Sabatini on 18 to tie the match. And so the rest is history. So he come out of there and I said, now, they're going to forget about you bending the club over your head now, Woody. They're going to see the Aquaman. Well, and then we go on. You're talking about the Aquaman part of it. We're in the cabin, the team cabin after the round, and everybody's celebrating, and the next day's the individual matches for the final thing. And Mrs. Nicholas, Barbara Nicholas, walks up, and we're talking. She said, "Brent, that was so funny." Barbara Nicholas is absolutely the nicest, coolest woman I've ever met in my entire life, besides my mother. She's incredible. And she said, "That was the funniest thing." And I started laughing. I said, "Yeah." I said, "We ought to get him a snorkel and mask and make him wear it tomorrow." And she goes, "Oh, you think he'd wear it?" I said, "Mrs. Nicholas, if you can find a snorkel and mask in Canada in October, I'll get him to put it on. I'll promise you." Laughing. She walked off, and I kind of forgot about it. So we go out the next day to play Angel Cabrera in the individual matches. The Americans have pretty much wrapped it up. We've got a pretty big lead for the matches, but Angel and Woody's got a pretty tough match going. And Mrs. Nicholas and and Jack come right down on a golf cart. We're on like 12 the next day. And they follow us up for a hole. I get through with a hole. Mrs. Nicholas waves me over to the golf cart. I go, "What's up, Mrs. Nicholas?" She goes, "Here." And she hands me a kid's snorkel and mask she had found. I don't know if she flew it in private or what. But she got it in Canada, and I slipped it in the bag. And we're going up the next hole, and I don't want Woody to know it because I don't know what he's going to do. And I walk over to Angel Cabrera, and I unzip the bag, and I show him, and he starts laughing. I said, You okay if I get him to put this on?" And Angel didn't speak much English, and he can be kind of an ass. Angel's a tough dude if you don't know him. He can be really mean. So I was more worried about ruining the part of the sport and not piss Angel off and thinking it's a joke. But the match was over, and Angel said, No, yeah, it's fine. Let it go. So we get to that 14th hole the next day, the same hole where he hit it in the water, and he lays up this time, short of the green, and we start walking down through there, and I stopped and said, "Woodrow, you got to do something." He said, "What?" And I unzipped the bag and showed him. I said, "You got to put this on." "No way, Brent. I'm not putting that on. You've already made me a laughing stock. I'm not putting that on." I said, "What do you have to? They will love you if you'll do this." He goes, "No way. I'm not doing it." And I mean, he's almost mad at me. And we walk a little longer, and I'm begging and begging. And finally he goes, "Okay, I'll put on a mask, but I ain't putting on that damn snorkel." And I handed it to him. I said, "That's it, and the rest is history." You walk down to the fairway, and the people went crazy. And Mrs. Nicholas and Jack had pulled up behind the green to watch it. They were in tears laughing. It was so much fun.
That's still one of the most memorable moments, I think, in Presidents Cup history.
I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah.
I mean, you got Freddie.
The last 3 holes.
Who did Freddie pulled somebody's hat off that year and threw it up in the air?
I think that was a Ryder Cup, or was it?
I think that was the first Presidents Cup.
It was,
because it was at in DC.
100-yard shot. Yeah.
And then Woody's has got to be right up there, right next to it.
Man, those things are so much fun. Those team events. That Presidents Cup's the most fun I've ever had caddying.
Really?
It's just.
How come?
I mean, all of a sudden, you're not pulling against Tiger and Phil. They're on your side.
Some pretty good guns to have.
Y'all come play us now if you want. It ain't just Woody. You're playing all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you get to pull for them. And then you go back and you're playing ping pong with – I remember sitting there and I'm looking down and I'm playing ping pong against Elin, Tiger's wife at the time, and Amy Mickelson. We're playing me and one other caddy in doubles in ping pong. And you just look around like, this is surreal that – how am I playing ping pong with Tiger and Phil and Jim? I mean, all these guys. It's just amazing. They had a bus for us from the hotel. It was about a 30, 45-minute drive to the golf course. We had police escorts the whole way, and everybody's on this bus. I'm on the bus with Jack Nicklaus, Phil Mickelson, Tiger Woods, Jim Furyk. I mean, all the Americans and all the caddies were on one big bus going out there. And it's just, man, this is surreal. This is why you do what you're doing. And can't believe this is my life all of a sudden to to get involved in this.
Mm-hmm.
It's overwhelming after.
Does it drive you to improve, or does the player see that and their drive, you notice it ratchets up a level for they reset the goals and things
Oh
like
yeah,
that?
I mean, they're so confident in that again because you've got those guys on your side. I guess as a caddy, it drove you crazy to think, man, I should have practiced harder to try to play. This would be so cool as a player. It's unbelievable as a caddy, but could you imagine being a player and the hair standing up on your arms when you tee off on the first hole? And there's two or three I think there was three presidents there that year,
Mm-hmm.
or two, both Bushes, and I think one other was them watching the tournaments. It's just the people you meet in this sport and what we've got to do. My whole life is just amazing.
You know,
Not
as
to
you
mention a bus that's worth about $3 billion riding down the road you're on.
so they treat the caddies as parts of the team in the team rooms and things like that. They don't.
Absolutely.
You're not excommunicated like
No,
many years ago.
no, not at all. I mean, they had dinners with just the players, but both teams and their wives, which I understand. We had our own dinner with other caddies, but at the end of the round each day, you go back to each other's cabin, and you're there mingling. You're having drinks and playing ping pong and cards and just telling stories and watching golf, and it's everybody's in one cabin, the players and the caddies.
That's pretty cool.
And it's really cool. You're sitting there, you look down and you're talking to Jack Nicklaus, and man, this guy I have idolized my whole life, and here he is right in front of me. I'm talking to him. It's just kind of, like I said, it's surreal to get to do stuff like that. It's so much fun.
Have you been to Augusta since they did the new range and the caddy room and all that stuff?
Yeah.
How has that
It's,
changed from what
it's,
it used to be?
it's unbelievable. I don't know if I went before. I think I went before, but there's not much. There's not many tournaments that don't treat caddies incredible now. It's changed a lot, even since I've been out there. I can't imagine the 20 years before I got out there how it was, but I mean, Augusta is just over and above. You walk in, there's a huge buffet for us, and then they've got a short order cook over there to cook you anything under the sun. And most of the players eat out there with you. They come in there because it's right by the range, so they'll just walk out there and eat. And
That's pretty cool. That was a buddy of my brother's who lived with us before he got married. He's been teaching in Houston now. I don't know when Ross moved 3 or 4 years ago, and he got to be buddies with Cabrera and who's the other guy from Argentina? Almost won the British Open one year.
Angel Romero.
Romero, right? And he plays with them a lot.
One of my favorite guys I've ever met.
Right, and so they gamble amongst themselves. And well, Cabrera a couple years ago asked Ross. He said, "Hey, I'm going to Augusta. You want a caddy for me?"
Really?
He's like, "Let me think about that for a minute." Yeah. Because I think Angel's son, he and his wife had a baby recently, and he wasn't going to be able to make it, so he asked Ross to go. And we said, "How was he?" He goes, "It's ridiculous how well they treat you."
Oh, they do. Augusta goes, but a lot of tournaments do that now. I guess you want to say Charlotte was the first one that went over and above what other tournaments did. They kind of set the standard. Their tournament director was a huge caddy fan. I mean, he gave us valet parking in a tent, a huge tent right beside the putting green with chefs in it and nice hot food and cold sandwiches, whatever you wanted. And it's air conditioned, and he went over and above, and he set the standard for other tournaments to start doing the same thing. And so now you go to tournaments, and we're taken very well care of now.
That's good, because I remember caddying at the finals at Q School for Todd, and that was in 2001. And it was, they had signs like caddy's not allowed in the clubhouse.
Oh yeah.
You had to eat at the halfway house, whatever they had, and if it was closed, you were screwed.
Yeah. I remember going to Honolulu when my first week or second week after caddying for Garrett at Tucson. We go to Honolulu the next week, and there's a sign on the pro shop, public welcome, no caddies. Like, What? So just a random dude can walk in here and go in the pro shop? What do you think? We're going to go in there and steal the place, rob the place blind? I don't know what. Public welcome, no caddies. It's like, golly, that's just no, that doesn't happen much anymore. They've really stepped it up. The tour and I remember I caddied for Kilp in Memphis when he was a club pro and won the Tennessee section. So we got in Memphis, and damn, it was 102 degrees, and I couldn't. They had a tent set up. It was about an 8x8 tent with no sides, no air conditioning, no nothing, with a table and 4 chairs underneath it for 140 caddies.
Jeez.
No food.
It's like Secession used to be. Remember Secession when they had the little caddy shack?
Oh, yeah. They had food in there.
Yeah, they did at least have food.
That was way nicer than what they had it set up in Memphis 30 years ago. But now they're on top of it. They all do a good job.
As we talk about that and how things have changed, and the PGA Tour is and can be a very glamorous place, but can you just let everyone know or shed some light on the differences between, because they're seeing most people are seeing where the players might be staying, but the travel, the accommodations, or where you eat while you're on the road as a caddy.
Oh yeah, I mean I just posted something on Twitter and Facebook about the top 10 differences between players' hotels and caddies' hotel. I just posted that this week. I don't know if you saw it. Did you? I did.
Yeah. That's kind of where I got the question. I want to say,
You go to a player's hotel and they've got a 24-hour room service, and we got a Denny's in our hotel parking lot. They've got a 24-hour room service. And but now, I mean, the caddies are making a lot of money now, thanks to Tiger and everybody else, and the commissioners for driving the money up. But it's not like it's everybody that gets their card, their caddies making a pretty good living. And keep in mind, you've got two expenses. You got to pay all your expenses traveling, so you can go as nice as you want to go, or you can go as low as you want to go. I still know guys that will sleep in their, especially on the Corn Ferry Tour, they'll sleep in their car and get up and go to the Planet Fitness and take a shower before they come to the golf course or something.
Wow.
I mean, they don't make enough money out there for nothing. The players don't make anything on that tour, much less the caddies. So there's still some poverty out there when it comes to guys trying to make it. But on the big tour, most of the caddies are, if you're in the top 125, you're making close to right at $1 million now, I would think. So your caddies should be making around 6 figures somewhere or more. So it's not that big of a difference anymore. Mine was more in jest to just get a laugh and quit talking about politics. My little top 10 list, but they've got what did I say? They got a car valet, and you've got a guy standing in the shadows waiting to break into your car to the hotel. You're trying to fight. They've got a spa and a masseuse, and we've got a 24-hour massage in the strip mall next to us. There's all kinds of different things that they have. It didn't take me long to think of that. I could have went 20 deep on that probably.
Without violating any agreements that you might have had with players now or in the past, can you just talk a little bit about the pay structure for a tour caddy?
Most of them, I don't know what the weeklies are anymore. People, they pay a caddy what they call a weekly salary. So every week you play, and I'm going to say the average now has got to be pushing $2,000 a week, maybe $1,500 to $2,000 is what they'll pay you up front. And then if you make the cut, of course, the player gets paid more. It used to be 5% of making a cut, 7% if you top 10, and 10% if you won the tournament. So, but I think most players have done away with the 5%. I think most of them are just 7 to 10%. So if you're coming into the last hole and you make bogey to finish 11th instead of 10th, you don't want to cut the caddy $10,000 off their salary or $2,000 or whatever. That's big. We've got to take care of our household where we live, and then we got to take care of another while we're on the road, basically. So we're keeping up 2 households, basically. You're spending 30 weeks a year on the road. So it's expensive, but That's how it works. It's 7%, 10%.
Would you
And
say
the different players will pay different salaries and different percentages.
that just worked out amongst the team?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a handshake. There's no contracts.
There's not a lot of
For
job security, is there?
There isn't. There's no job security other than, I mean, they can get rid of you in a heartbeat, which, for the amount of money some of the guys are making, it's kind of crazy that there's not contracts. But on the other side of that, I mean, if you're a player or a caddy and your guy's not doing so good and you get offered a bigger bag, you're not locked into that either.
Mm-hmm.
I felt fortunate I had any bag. I didn't bounce around. I stayed with two guys for basically 10 years each. I've been only really with two dudes. I've been with three or four here and there a week or two, but I stayed with two dudes for 20 years because I liked both of them, and I felt fortunate to have their bag. I like to go bouncing around. They took the time and the women thought to hire me, so it was my job, I thought, to pay the respect and work for them as long as they would have me. So I think there should be contracts. So the amount of money they're playing for, you just saw Justin Thomas caddy, what did he make, $270,000
Right,
last week.
That's amazing.
TPC for a week. There's 10 caddies made, or 20 caddies that made five figures in a week, or more. Probably more than that. 30 caddies that probably made five figures that week at TPC. There's big money out there now, and the good thing was that with the pandemic, we really didn't have a letdown. We played through most of it. We missed a few tournaments, but our purses stayed higher or got higher, and everybody else was having trouble. So we've not had those recessions that other people have had through the years, the 20 years I've been caddying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the golf business has been very fortunate through COVID. It's actually grown.
Very fortunate. I look back at the commissioner signing those contracts to get them done later on down the road. He saw the future and not just right then and there. Plus, they're still giving back tons of money to charity that are really needing it right now. And the tours, I still think they're the most giving to any charity, if I'm not mistaken, of any major sport.
Is that because they were grandfathered under the old tax codes?
I don't know. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think when the tax, and this is going back 15 or 20 years ago, and it did pop up about 3 years ago. I think there was a senator from Nebraska who was looking at sports organizations and the taxes they pay. I think it started with the NFL and it leaked into golf, because I remember when all the tax codes changed, and this is 15 or 20, maybe 25 years ago, and it's the PGA Tour got grandfathered. I guess they had enough lobbyists or knew the right people. Yes, and they were not paying the I don't know. It wasn't a corporate tax structure, but they were under a much more lenient tax structure. And I always,
even though the PGA, the PGA is a nonprofit organization.
Maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, they're still a nonprofit organization with probably $1 billion sitting in.
Right. And I think because they had given so much to charity and continue to do so, I'm sure that played a major role. And it's like, okay, you're going to start taxing us. Where's the charity money going to go?
That's exactly where, I agree. That's probably what it was. They were nonprofit and giving so much to charity that they grandfathered them in the good old boys organization. Writing on the wall. I didn't know that though.
What is a typical prep for a tournament like for you?
Prep?
Yeah, scouting out the course, greens, pin locations.
Since I've been out there 20 years, we play the same golf courses. Now I've learned all the golf courses now. Yeah, and he'll usually play 9 or 18 holes of practice round, and I'll go out. If I see something has changed, I'll make sure I see the whole golf course before we tee off. I'll somehow get around all 18. Whether he just plays 9, I'll go walk the other one by myself just to make sure there's nothing changed. But I've got all my notes, all my old books, and the years before, and I keep all that, and I make sure that nothing's changed. And if something has changed on the golf course, somebody will tell you, hey, there's a sprinkler head out here. There's no way that you got enough time in the day to go look at every sprinkler head and make sure they're all marked right. But somebody will catch it. the yardage books are beyond incredible now. I know you've seen them.
Yeah, I've seen. I had one student
It,
play in the USGA pub link. Was it the pub links? And I'm looking at the yardage book. I'm like, are you serious? It's
yeah,
everything.
you could almost go around the golf course now blind with the yardage book, and it would be just as simple almost.
Mm-hmm.
They're so good. I mean, they've got every slope in the green, and there's some really in depth. I mean, every carry, every yardage to every spot. It's pretty amazing.
Remember when we were
The amount of
playing?
work.
There was somebody. Was it Brett Harris or somebody would get there 2 days before and laser every hole, and then he'd make a
A
yardage book and
small
sell them
yardage
for
book.
$10.
Yep. And
It's
we
a little
bought them.
different now.
We could have sold them for 100. He didn't know. We would have all bought them. That's the same thing with our yardage books. I won't ever tell Mark all does ours, and I won't tell him. I think he knows. Unfortunately, he keeps them down to. But now those greens books, those things are 100, 150 a week. You got to buy those things, and if they, the next year if they tweak a green, you got to go back and get another yardage book, another greens book every week. So you're paying. I've never carried one. I've never had a player that wanted me to carry a greens book, or I would, but I mean, that's 150 coming out of your paycheck that week, not the players. They don't pay for that.
Jeez.
That's part of your expenses, not mention your hotel, your rental car, your food, your flight. It's not cheap. I mean, it'd be hard to go out there now, and it's not good to bunk up, be in a hotel room with 2 beds and for the money you're playing for. I always stayed by myself unless we get a condo. I always wanted a bedroom by myself because if a guy's snoring or keeping you awake or vice versa, it could affect your job the next day. So all those expenses, I'd say it'd be hard to get around less than a couple of grand a week now with a flight. You're buying one-way flights everywhere, and you're waiting to the last minute to buy those flights because you don't know if your player's going to play, and it's expensive to travel.
So the 2,000 a week salary, which might seem like a lot, you've pretty much eaten up most of it, if not all of it,
before
just to get there.
Yeah, $400 flight, a $700 or $800 hotel, a $400 rental car you hadn't even eaten yet.
Mm-hmm.
And then you pay a couple of $100 for yardage books, and it's not cheap. But like I say, it's a fun job if you can get the right bag. It's unbelievable.
Has you've been to Harbor Town? Obviously, you were there way back in the days, and you've been there enough. But after they did they do the greens over? Yeah, when they redid the greens, did you notice much of a change?
Didn't change. I couldn't hardly need any of it. None of it could you tell. They did a hell of a job.
Mm-hmm.
I knew they had done that, and when we went out to play it, I go, this is identical. I mean, it's identical. It might be a little bigger. I think that's what they did. They recovered some of the size of the greens that had
lost on encroachment.
Yeah, and but you don't really notice that. You don't really look at the edges too much. You might see where they go into a bunker or something. It's still easily, not even a close second. That's still my favorite golf tournament and golf course we play. Obviously I'm fond of it, but
is it because it's the relaxed atmosphere and it's laid back? Just that Hilton Head
every
vibe.
Year, I'd have 4 or 5 of my buddies from home that always come down there every year. They take a week off work, and we get a big house down on North Forest Beach or South Forest Beach. And, we just have a ball. We'd have a big old man fraternity party, pretty much. It'd be 5 or 6 or 7 of us staying in one gigantic house and having our beers at night and grilling out and telling lies. And just a fun week. And the players are doing the same thing. Players are renting. Hardly anybody stays in a hotel that week. Everybody rents houses and condos. And the hotels get old. But when you're grilling out and cooking and staying home and don't have to go out to the enchiladas, and we go there a couple of times and go see David Riley.
Go see David at the corner of the bar.
Absolutely. He looks forward to us coming in there, and we look forward. And we do that. We used to do it every night because we stayed right there, and we could walk back to the house if we got too many into the beer. So because we'd stay right there.
Is your picture still on the corner? hanging up?
He took it off. I think he moved it back there in the back, and it might be completely gone now.
That thing was up there forever.
Yeah, it's something I'm real proud of, to get my name and my face retired from a bar. Here, Mom and Dad, I want you so proud of it. I spent so much money in here, they put my picture in. David Riley hired good waitresses, though. That's why we go in.
Yeah, he did.
Beer and pretty waitresses.
Very pretty. And that was a local golf hangout. Remember, they gave all the golf pros and the tennis pros got 15% off.
Yep. And then they pay you a happy hour to drink. Remember, they give you those 50-cent pieces and $1. They pay you. They would pay us 50 cents and $1 to come in there and have a beer or a cocktail. Like, how can you beat that on happy hour?
That place was awesome.
Oh, and remember, we'd send every tourist that come in. David had it. He knew it. I mean, he took care of us, and we took care of him. We made David a lot of money because everybody come off the golf course. Hey, where should we go eat? Enchiladas. That guy, he'd buy you a beer here or a drink or pay your tab every once in a while or give you 15% off. We sent every person that come in there.
Yeah, he made that back 10 times over, 100 times over. Very smart. I was playing with him. I don't know if it was a Pro-Am or something we were playing in. It might have been a Secession or wherever it was. And he had Titleist balls with a Enchiladas logo. And then on the other side, it said, bring this in for a free drink. And if he hit something in the water or the woods, he said, just leave it. Yeah. Because there's no one going to just order one drink.
And they're going to eat.
Mm-hmm.
It cost me $1 for that bottle. I'm going to make $12 off them coming in.
Yep. Riley's are a very sharp business family.
He really is. I love David Riley.
The young players today, because you've been out there now for better part of more than 2 decades. How do you? Yeah. Is it better athletes? Is it more technology that's able to dial people in? What do you see?
It's both. It's just like every other sport. The kids are bigger, stronger, faster. It's their training. They're training now when they're in junior high and high school where we didn't. They're lifting weights.
Mm-hmm.
They're more mature. They're way more mature than we were at 13, 14 years old. You walk in the high school down here and you look at every girl and go, she looks like she's 30, and every guy's 6'4", walking by you. I mean, the kids don't even play basketball. They're just random kids. Everybody's 6'3", 6'4", weighs 220 pounds. Everybody's just bigger and stronger. I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago. It was 10 years ago, the average age on tour was 36. And in 5 years, it went to 26.
Wow. So
in 5 years, it moved 10 years. The average age is what somebody told me. And I don't know if that's true, but it sounds pretty true. That's when there's not many 40-year-old men out there playing anymore. Now, I think they're trying to move the senior tour. Are they not trying to move the age back?
I heard that, yeah. It would make sense. I mean, I had a very good friend of mine was on the show because he went into the golf business when he was in his early to mid-40s, but Marinus is in the World Martial Art Hall of Fame. I mean, he's trained with the Gracies. He lived in China with the monks for 3 years. He's as good as you're going to find. Right. And he's very good friends with Hoist Gracie. And we were talking about MMA one time, and he said, look, once you're probably about 30, maybe 35, your career is over. You can't compete with a kid that's 19 to 23. They're too fast. They're too strong. They recover too well. You might have the know-how and have a few more tricks, but how are you going to beat speed and strength in that sport? And you're not. And I to your point where it's happening in every sport that the age is getting younger, but the development mentally, physically of the athlete is getting exponentially higher.
And it's just, they've done it over the years. Everything has. It's gotten that way in every sport. Mm-hmm. It's not just every sport. You look at tennis players. Tennis players are 6'7", 6'8", and they're playing tennis. If you were 6'7" when I grew up, you played basketball.
Right.
It was because there's only like 2 of you in the whole state.
You know who's I think feeling the hit of that the most? Not that it's changed the excitement of it, because it's probably made for more excitement, is the NCAA basketball tournament.
Yeah, because there's now 500 6'8" athletes out there, and every team's got 3 or 4 of them. It used to be one team would have 5 and 2 teams wouldn't have any.
Yeah, and you remember when we were young, guys usually stayed at a minimum of 3 years, if not all 4.
For sure.
And it made that you could have dynasties and powerhouses. Now you got a lot of what Oral Roberts was, what were they, a 15th seed?
Yeah.
And look how well they're doing. But yeah, so to both points, athletes are better, stronger. They're all 6'7", 6'8", and the elite of the elite are going right to the NBA. So there's not that downward pressure. Maybe because they don't need that development stage. They're ready to make that jump, and other kids do. But yeah, it's happening.
On the other side of that, it's not much fun to watch basketball anymore because no team is loyal.
Mm-hmm.
I was a huge St. John's fan. My brother-in-law worked for St. John's for 20 plus years, 40 plus years. Matter of fact, he was there with Chris Mullins and Bill Winnington, and
that was the heyday.
I got to watch those. That whole Big East was. They had Patrick Ewing over at Georgetown, and they had Pickney at Villanova. So I got to watch all those guys play all 4 years. And so after the year was over, their freshman year, you couldn't wait till their sophomore year to see them compete against each other again. And then the junior year and the senior year. So you follow a team and you learn those players, and that don't happen anymore. Mm-mm. They're gone. If there are no dynasties because the guys are gone. Tennessee got beat in the first round. They had 2 freshmen that came in. I think both of them are going in the NBA. They lost in the first round. They couldn't even get them through the first round. And there's still one of them's going to be a lottery pick, they said. And if you're that good, how are you not good enough to get your college team into the second round of the tournament? Because there's that many other great players out there.
I'm reading a book right now. It's called Peak, P-E-A-K. It's Secrets from the New Science of Expertise. I think the author's name was Anders Ericsson. And it speaks to that on...
You read?
Yeah, every once in a while, because I can't watch TV anymore. I just refuse to watch anything news related. It's so bad. But it speaks exactly to what we're talking about. Where you look at when the marathon time was just broke 3 hours, and that was world class news. And now everybody, in order to qualify for the Boston Marathon, you've got to have shown you could break a 3-hour marathon just to get in.
Yeah, people act like it's something. They act like, Tiger and Michael Jordan. They had to do steroids to get as big as they got. I go, no, they didn't. They got older. They started lifting weights. They gained weight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you gain weight when you get older.
Those guys came out, they were 18, 17, 18, 19 years old. They weren't even men yet. Not like the kids now that are coming out that are full-grown men. That's why these guys get bigger and stronger and faster. But yeah, so that Peak, you say?
Yes, P-E-A-K. Let me see here. I got it written down over here. Secrets from the New Science of Expertise. I'll send it to you. I'll text it to you when we're done.
It better have a lot of pictures if I'm going to get into it.
I don't know. I've only read at page 18. I read 18 pages yesterday, so I haven't even gotten to the picture. I usually go. You look at the side of the book and you see the shiny pages that all lumped together. Usually in the middle, and you can go there and look at the pictures real quick. And I didn't see a whole lot on this one.
Only reading I do nowadays fantasy football, basketball. I read the names and what. If they're hurt, it's my new hobby.
In some of the cities that you get to go to, because you guys go to some pretty nice places, and you got the Monday Pro-Am and then the bigger Pro-Am on Wednesday, and usually Tuesday the practice round. Do you get much time off to go sightseeing, checking out different things?
Some players, of course, are bigger range beaters and want you out there. And some of them, you've actually got some guys that will go to the range now by themselves, let you go play golf. I fortunately had dudes that weren't. Neither one of them were huge practicers.
Mm-hmm.
They would work on their weeks off, and they get to the tournament, and they, their family's out there too. They want to go spend some time with their family and sightsee. So I had it lucky in that form because, I carry my clubs every week. I played a lot of golf when I was caddying. We call up any course. Usually, if you're in town, you can find a course to accommodate caddies. And there's a bunch of guys that carry their clubs and a bunch of good players. We go get a gambling game up.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's especially in Hilton Head, where there's 100 courses right there. Right. And if you were in town, you were kind of the show, and he would always get somebody like a Ted Scott to go, hey, if I call him up and go, hey, I'm Robert Garrigus' caddy, they're gonna go, who? But if Teddy calls him up and goes, hey, I'm Bubba Watson's caddy, you care for us to come over? Oh yeah. Bubba coming with you? You always get a bigger name. A caddy is a caddy for a bigger name to call the golf course and ask for privileges to come play.
Mm-hmm.
I've got on some really nice places doing that.
You've been out there 20 years in like we said, a job that no one really has job security. And it's a testament to your ability, your skill, your personality, expertise, all those things. Is there any secret that you have? Or if there's a kid out there 20 years old that's saying, I'm going to get out of college next year, I want to go try to caddy on the tour. That's something I've always dreamed of doing.
We've had guys like that come out, and I've had all my buddies, the buddies that don't know anybody. Hey man, if you ever know anybody looking, give them my name. The guy works at the car lot down the road.
Right.
Car stuff. And I go, yeah, I think Tiger was asking last week. I'll tell him. About it. It's first of all, most guys that are coming out there now were at one point in time a pretty high level player. If they're caddying now, they either play with a kid in college and their college teammate made it and they bring their buddy out. They played with them on mini tours or tour school or something.
Mm-hmm. They're very knowledgeable about the game.
And realistically, there's just not much turnover like there used to be. There's players are keeping caddies for longer periods of time than they used to. I mean, you think of all the big names. Dustin's had his brother on the bag now for 7-8 years, and DeChambeau's had his guy on the bag for 4 or 5 years, and all these guys. Ricky Fowler's had his best friend on the bag for 10 years since his whole time. Jordan, they all keep the same caddies now. They realize there's a something to it, and you're going to have your differences. You're going to get in your arguments because you're spending 40, 50 hours a week or more with one guy. You're going to have there's some times where it gets tough. Kenny Perry told me that the first trip I went to Tucson to Garrett, he said, well, I was on the flight with Kenny from somewhere to Tucson, from Nashville to Tucson. And Kenny goes, where are you staying? I saw Garrett and I staying in a hotel together. He goes, ooh, man, don't make a habit of that. I go, what do you mean? He goes, you'll get sick of it. It's the quickest way to lose a job as a caddy is to stay with your player week in and week out. And there's been a few guys that do that. They've stayed best friends. And again, Ricky Fowler and Joe Scovern have done that and stayed together. But you just spend too much time with one person. It's a fine line.
Do you see yourself? You've had a long, very good career. Do you see yourself staying out there, becoming like a Fluff or Joe LaCava?
I don't know if I'm ever going to get back, Pete. I had the injury a couple of years ago, and Garrigus was pretty much going on the downside of his career. And I thought, if Garrigus gets rid of me, somebody else will hire me because there's not many. Like I say, the caddies that get turnover over there now, it's the same. There's probably 50 guys, maybe not quite 50, 30 guys that were caddying 20 years ago when I went out there that are still out there, which is amazing. But these younger kids or agents are realizing, hey, there's something to be said for having a veteran caddy for this 24-year-old kid. You think, well, maybe they don't have, this 56-year-old guy don't have anything in common with a 24-year-old kid. What can they talk about? But they're realizing it's making a big difference for these kids coming out, getting them comfortable. I say that you walk out and since I had my injury, I've not gotten many phone calls to come back out. And Garrett just lost his card pretty much, and I thought I'd get a call, and I'm not. I'm sitting at home.
You need to.
So I don't know.
Call some of the college coaches. Like Hank Kim's coaching at a school just outside of Atlanta. He had a couple kids that were. He said could do some real big things out there. Not like win 5 tournaments in a row type things, but he said guys that'll make it and could compete.
Again, that's what we went back to earlier. You don't know who's going to make it. And
right.
Then if they make it now, nobody comes straight out on the tour. You got to go to the Corn Ferry, and you got to work your ass off there to get out. So you're talking about a year of my career, I have to take off to go to Corn Ferry on a maybe.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hard thing to do. I mean, and knowing you're going to lose money. I've caddied for Garrigus 3 weeks on the Corn Ferry this year. I've lost money doing it. I mean, you still have the same expenses, but half the money that they pay on the big tour. No, not even a half, a tenth of the money, a fifth of the money. So it's hard. And when getting back to what you said about kids coming out to try to do it, the only way to do it now, I think, is to go to the Corn Ferry. If you're trying to get a job, a caddying, you can get a job caddying on the Corn Ferry. There'll be somebody walking there, not a lot of them. There's somebody walking there without a bag, without somebody carrying it because they can't afford to pay some guy full time. So some players will still bounce around. There's a lot more movement, and you might be able to go out there and find the right guy and click and get on tour, and hopefully he keeps you out there on tour when he makes his tour card. You're not going to walk out on the PGA Tour anymore and get a bag. It's absolutely impossible.
Things have changed that much.
Yeah. It used to be when I was there, first started caddying, you'd go there and there'd be 10 guys without a golf bag, 10 caddies sitting around, veteran caddies sitting around, and 4 or 5 of them would get a bag. Somebody would come in, a player wouldn't have a full-time caddy, even on the PGA Tour, but that doesn't happen anymore. These guys, they know who's caddying for them before they get there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
what about like Woody or some of the guys that you worked for in the past playing the Champions Tour?
That was where I made my mistake. I come off ankle surgery, and I was out 6 months. I was only supposed to be out like a month and a half, and my ankle had some complications. I was out 6 months. When I came back, and Garrigus was still playing, but he was losing his card. Well, the week before I came back, Garrigus got suspended for smoking marijuana, smoking weed.
Mm-hmm.
And he got popped in L.A. That's where it's legal. So it's kind of stupid, but
jeez,
it is what they knew. He'd been popped a couple of times, and they told him, and he didn't stop, and he got popped again. They suspended him for 6 months. So there's a year. Now there's my bag gone for my 6 months I was hurt, and then 6 months after that he's out. So I'm out basically a year.
Mm-hmm.
And in that year I lost touch with the players, the caddies. And nobody knew I was looking for a bag. Yeah, they thought Garrigus was going to come back and I'd work for him. But Garrigus was on the downside of his career anyway, trying to find it, trying to get back out there. So I lost touch with all I didn't know that many agents in the first place. I think it's passed me by at this point. I don't know. I keep thinking I'm going to get a call, but it's not happening. And it's hard to go out there and travel. You have to. I'd done that. Went out there week to week without a bag. Flying, getting a rental car, getting a hotel, and on my own dime, trying to find. Let somebody know I'm looking.
Right.
If you need somebody, here I am. It's a tough little gig once you get out of it. I've talked to a few guys, and I've luckily got Kip out there still caddying for JB Holmes, and so I've got a voice at least. But once you're gone from there, you're forgotten pretty quick. There's somebody else ready to take your spot.
Yeah, the show must go on, right?
The show must go on, and the thing about it ain't like a player. If a player's got the talent to be out there, they're going to be out there. But if a caddy's gone, they're going to get somebody else, and it could be your mom. Everybody thinks they can do it. Not everybody can, but there's a possibility that you can.
That's funny. You said that you could get your mom. When I was still playing, the last year I was playing, I used to always go up and qualify for the Buick Open because my folks still live up there, and I forget who is the guy. Someone I knew was supposed to caddy for me, and something came up with their family they couldn't, and I was stuck without a caddy. And the tour, that was when you had to do the Thursday pre-qual and then the Monday open qual.
Yeah,
and you had to have a caddy. And so my mom said, I'll do it. She had never caddied before. I mean, she knew enough about golf, had seen me play enough and goofing around, gone with us. So she caddied. It was a brutal, it was almost 100 and the humidity is way up there. And about the 13th, 14th hole, my girlfriend comes up to me, waves me over and says, your mom's not going to make it. And I look back 25 yards and she's beat red and she's huffing and puffing. So she said, I'm going to take the bag from her. I asked the tour official, I said, hey, is this okay? And he said, no problem. He said, I'll drive her back to the clubhouse. Okay, fine. So I get done. I think I might have shot 3 or 4 under. So we had to wait all day. And my mom had been there and she's drinking. I said, what are you drinking? And she said, kamikazes. She had about 4 or 5 of them as soon as she got back to the clubhouse. And because now I shot 3 or 4 under, and at that course, always 1 or 2 got in, but I had to wait all day. And Sean Pachetti cut me in the next to last group and bumped me out. But I mean, my mom was ready to fall over, pass out from heat, and she ended up getting tanked up in the clubhouse while we were waiting.
I'll tell you, it's been hard. I've went down a couple of times. Kip's went down several times. If you have that heat and throwing that extra 40, 50 pounds on your back, it will get you. You have to pay attention. That's why you don't see a whole lot of caddies. There's not a whole lot of partying going on out there anymore. It's too big a business. These guys are legit. They ain't nobody. It used to be, even when I first got out there, everybody's getting drunk every night and sleeping 2 hours and showing up at the golf course hungover. But those days are done.
The fun days are gone.
No, there ain't no fun days out there. It's work, and it's a big business, and rightfully so. I mean, it's guys take it serious as a job. That's what they do. It makes sense. There's several caddies making a ton of money.
If the PGA Tour handed the reins over to you and made you King Brent for a day, what would you do what would be the first thing you would do to change regarding caddies?
Obviously, pace of play, what everybody complains about. I don't know if anybody's got the right answer. No, only right answer is to start stroking them. You got to speed it up to make it worthy for the fans to show. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say something about a business that's so successful.
Mm-hmm.
Where are they making mistakes? I don't know if they are. I might put a little more money into the Corn Ferry for those guys but if you do that, then only the strong survive. Now there might be some weaker players get through. It's a fine line. Pace of play be the only thing I can think of that would be different. I'd get rid of signing scorecards. The stupidest thing they do. Sign a scorecard after the thing. If you're wrong, you get DQ'd.
Yeah, with all
Everybody
the digital
knows
scoring
what
and
you
everything.
shot.
Right.
Yeah, everybody knows what you shot. You shouldn't be a problem if you can't add. That ain't. You played golf. You shot 65. I signed for a 64, and here I'm going home.
Right.
That's happened. That happened to Garrigus. He bogeyed the last hole, got a little pissed off, went and signed his card fast, and walked out and he signed one lower. The guy had made a mistake. Well, his playing opponent had made a mistake. And Garrigus didn't check it very well. And that was when we were fighting to keep our card. Ended up losing our card. We were going to be in good shape with making the cut. And instead we get DQ'd. So, I mean, stuff like that, little things like that where I think it's just petty.
What do you think of the distance argument? Should it be reined in, or should they just let it keep growing?
Yeah, that's a good point. That would be the first thing. You're right there. Put the ball back to moving, curving.
Mm-hmm. Have a tour ball.
Yeah, any ball. Yeah, you can let them hit it as far as they want. Just let it curve. If it curves, they won't be swinging at it like DeChambeau's swinging at it.
Mm-hmm. Boy, he goes at it, doesn't he?
Oh, they do. I mean, all of them do. When you and I were taught golf, we were taught to swing 90%.
Right. I
don't know if you remember that. They told you couldn't swing 100% because you couldn't hit it on line if you did.
Mm-hmm.
These dudes now swing as hard as they can possibly swing, every one of them, with almost every club, because the ball's going to go dead straight. You could let it. I mean, that would stop most of the distance stuff and put some of the golf courses back in play. I know Garrigus at Harbortown, we hit driver sandwich into 5 twice.
Wow.
The 5's a par 5.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that hole, right?
Yep.
He could take it over the top of those trees. Now, granted, both times it landed on the cart path and went out to where you lay up, but it flew over that lake. He was going to have 9 iron in instead of his cart path went sandwich into it. on the second shot.
God, I remember
Just the
way
whole,
back when everyone was saying how Davis got it to roll over the cart path.
yeah. And how about 15 being a true 3-shot par 5 when you and I worked there?
Yeah, and
Then
everyone was
anybody
wondering if
knock it on.
Daly was going to be able to knock it on. I think he
Yeah.
tried and hit that. No one, remember, nobody in that pine. There's those 3 pine trees on the corner at the pond, and nobody knows about the back one that
Yeah.
everybody
It
hits.
catches every ball.
Yep.
And he can't hit it high enough to get it over and land it on the green.
Mm-mm.
I watched Woody knocking on there 2 or 3 days out of 4 the year we got beaten in the playoff by Davis Love. And it just blew my mind because when you and I played there was nobody that could even attempt to knock it on
No,
that green.
wasn't even
Of course,
a thought.
when we were playing, it was the ball. When we played it, the ball was a plug in the fairway. It was always so soft. When they started knocking on that hole, I went, oh, my gosh, how the hell is that working?
Yeah, Scott Fawcett, I think I'm saying his name right, he has Decade.
Yeah, I know the name, yes.
And I messaged him to come on, and we're trying to figure out some dates because he's gotten a lot of requests lately because he works with Bryson and so many guys. And he's one question I want to ask him. He's against bifurcation or a tour ball versus an amateur ball because of the kids coming up out of college, especially with the way they restructured that. Some of those kids now I think get some sort of status. I'm not exactly sure. I don't follow it that close anymore. And it would be a big change for them. And if they switched to the tour ball while they were still amateurs, they might not keep the same status they did, and it's going to affect their income. But at some point, something's got to give somewhere. And I that's one question I want to ask him about. But, there's got to be a give and take on that issue. Otherwise, what's going to happen if they just keep pushing it further and further and further?
Yeah, I mean, they're making golf courses obsolete.
Mm-hmm.
Great golf courses. Harbor Town they don't hit many drivers there anymore. But the scores always group up, don't they? The scores are fairly low.
Yep, right around 12 to 16 under usually wins every year.
Yeah.
And right around even a 2 under.
Tear up. I mean, when I worked there, I remember hitting 4 and 5 irons on 4.
Mm-mm.
The par 3, they backed that tee up 15, 20 yards since then, and these guys are still hitting 7 and 8 irons.
Mm.
I mean, that's a lot easier hole than standing back there trying to hit a 4 iron on that damn green.
No kidding.
Or any of those par 3s. They are hitting 7 and 8 irons. Back when we played it was 4 and 5 irons, 17. I mean, 17 was a hard hole. You had that little skinny green.
I remember playing 18 in January one year and hit driver, 1 iron to date it, how far back it was, and full sand wedge.
Yeah. I mean, again, it was plugging when we never caught that golf course ever, except for the tournament week, and the greens were perfect and the golf course was fine. I keep telling people that's as easy as that golf course will ever play. It's the week of the tournament.
Right.
I said they come play it when we play it, and you're getting 3 mud balls around and trying to hit these little bitty greens. I said they wouldn't nobody break par. I mean, if you shot 1 under out there when we played it, you had golfed your ball.
Mm-hmm.
Know that. Trying to hit those little greens, and you couldn't reach many of the par 5s. I don't think I knocked it on number 5 once or twice my whole in 3 or 4 years of living down there. And now everybody just hits irons in there like crazy.
Like it's nothing.
Yeah, those bunkers down the left, they're not even in play. So it's stuff like that. That's, again, they got to dial the ball back. Just make it move. You might have to take a few yards off of it, but if it had curved one way or the other like it used to, they'll start hitting it offline and out of bounds.
And a course like that too, when you're cutting corners and going over trees at that place, because you don't feel the wind, you get the ball up above those trees in that wind, and it's got some spin on it, and now it starts blowing twice as much as it normally does.
Yeah,
that makes a completely different golf course.
It's amazing. You hate to see that golf course go by. It's held the test of time, even though it's probably the shortest golf course they play now.
Mm-hmm. That and Colonial, I think, are the last 2.
The best golf courses are those top golf courses. Hartford, is that the Buick you played in?
No, the Buick, they don't even play. They do the champions there now. The Buick up in Flint, Michigan.
Flint, Michigan, yeah. Woody loved that place.
Because the greens were so pure.
He ate that. That was my retirement plan. Was there every year. We finished second there a couple of times. He won it there once. I wasn't on the bag. That was his first win. But we top 10 there every year, and I don't know why. But he always loved that golf course. But it was just it's kind of a ball striker golf course. I thought. Same thing. Hartford in Connecticut is a great golf course. It's probably one of the not misunderstood, flies under the radar golf courses the tour plays. I mean, it is such a good layout, and it's short. It's relatively short, but they're getting at it. They used to be 14, 1600 win there. 14, I think we won there one year at 14 under, and I think we were 6 or 7 shots out going into Sunday and shot 4 or 5 under and ended up winning a golf tournament. The leaders fell apart. We didn't even shoot anything crazy, but it's a relatively short golf course. But it's golf courses like that are few and far between, and they're running them with a distance.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they come up with.
I don't know if they're going to do anything. They've been talking about it for how many years now?
Right, and it just keeps getting further and further away. If they don't rein it in soon, then it's just going to get – they're not going to be able to do anything.
But where do you start it, Pete? Do you start at junior high school? Do you just take all the good balls off the –
I think that's the difficult part is where that question right there.
It's in relation to saying that you need to raise the rim in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's so much taller. Where do you start? Where do you start? You can't raise it to 10 feet 6 inches in college if you're playing on 10 foot in high school. Nobody'd ever make a shot. Everybody shoot air balls. So either you raise them all the way, or in junior high or wherever you start playing. I guess you play on a short goal when you're not strong enough to get it up there. But
the only and there's people much smarter and more degrees on the wall than me, but I still think that the transition would be from high level amateur to pro, same as it was in, let's say, the 3-point line. Remember the 3-point line in college, and then it was backed up 3 or 4 feet in NBA.
Yeah. So,
it's always got, and then you got college baseball with aluminum bats. I know that one's been argued quite a bit.
That's another
versus
one.
Wood.
Yeah, I remember they asked that one guy. I forget how long ago it was. I think he was going to be the number 1 draft choice in baseball. I said, well, when you come out of college, you're going to go in the NBA and you're going to have a wooden bat. And you're going to lose about 100 points.
Mm-hmm.
At least with a wooden bat. He goes, well, I'm batting 430 in college. I'll take 330 in Major League Baseball. I'll be all right with it. I'll take the minus 100 points.
No shit.
So, but I mean, that's another thing people talk about. They kind of dialed the baseball back. Why can't they dial the golf ball back?
Mm-hmm.
Ain't nobody hitting 60 home runs no more.
No.
You lead to 40, 42. Back to the same way it was when Mickey Mantle was leaving. Babe Ruth.
I grew up, we used to go to Detroit Tigers games, and that park probably had more balls hit out of the park, not the playing field, but the stadium, than most any, because it was, God, until they built a new one 12, 15 years ago. I mean, Tiger Stadium was there from, I think, the 30s.
Right.
And if you hit one out of the stadium, it was pretty good, but the ball would bounce, of course, and when it hit I think it was Jefferson was the road outside. But then as I would watch, and as years and decades went by, the balls were bouncing much higher during the home run.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You could see
you could see the difference.
Well, you see that at Chicago, at Wrigley.
Mm-hmm.
They don't nobody hit it across that street. No one landed on that building across the street.
Nope.
They used to do that. They'd show that 2 or 3 times a week. So they've dialed it back, so the golf ball needs to be doing the same thing.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be as hard as they make it out to be. Probably R&D working on it already.
Yeah, they will, but when is it going to start?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
Hey, let's. I told you long. I told you 2. We've gone at least 2 already. You want to do some rapid fire, and then I'll let you get out of here and go enjoy the evening.
Way. I don't know what to follow.
I got 9. I called the emergency 9 rapid fire. So.
All righty.
So let's say that you're playing in the Ryder Cup or the Presidents Cup, whichever one you want, and they do the walk-up song now. What would be your walk-up song?
Oh, Lord. Probably something with Michael Jackson. I'm still a Michael Jackson fan. I still think I can dance.
All right.
Billie Jean.
There you go. You've been out there a long time, met a lot of people, pro-ams and famous people. Who's the biggest celebrity in your phone?
Good night. I don't know. I've got a few. Roger Clemens, maybe.
Ooh, that's a pretty big one.
Oh, wait a minute. Now he's not in my phone. He's not. I'm sorry. I don't know his number. I've stayed with him in a house for a week and hung out with him a bunch, but I don't have. I got the third base coach for the New York Yankees. Phil Nevin is a very good friend of mine. The first base coach for the Red Sox. I've met every baseball player under the sun. It's the greatest guys, the greatest group of guys you'll ever meet. They're such a tight group of guys and good dudes. So Phil Nevin, maybe, which he'll be happy to hear that. He's the third base coach for the Yankees, I think, other than maybe a golfer. You know.
Is he a golfer?
Oh, yeah.
Shit, I gotta get
that's why you meet them. Every baseball player wants to be a golfer. And they all, 90% of them can really play. Nevin went to Q school. After he retired from baseball, he just had $5,000 burning a hole in his pocket. But he was a solid scratch player, and they all kill it. I mean, they hit it so far. They hit it so much further than tour players. It's not even funny. Yeah. So I guess that hand-eye wrist combination.
Mm-hmm.
So that wasn't that rapid fire, but there you go.
That's close enough. Let's see. If you could buy a stock in any player over the next 5 years, who would it be?
Morikawa. That's an easy one, I think. Everybody keeps saying, I just don't think that DeChambeau's something's got to give. Either his body or something's got to give.
Mm-hmm.
And he still has his moments. People don't realize that he's making every putt he stands over. It's not just hitting it forever. He's got a pretty good wedge game. So, but Morikawa.
Okay, that's a pretty good one. Let's see. Best course you ever played?
It's still Harbor Town.
Yeah, that's a tough one to pass on.
We don't get to play them. We get to walk around them. I mean, I've been around Augusta, but I've never played it. I've been around it 100 times. And that's a son of a bitch to walk, I'll tell you that.
It's the hardest course to walk now? Since
Maui, but the only thing about Maui, Augusta, you're at Augusta, so you're walking on cloud nine. But Maui, your guys playing good anyway because you've won to get there, so you've made a lot of money. Boy, is it hard to walk. It is a mountain. Wind blowing 100 miles an hour, and you've basically got a hang glider on your back trying to walk around the golf course. Trying not to take off.
All right, let's see. Favorite sports movie?
Wow. Man, that's a good one. Hoosiers is right up there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not Happy Gilmore, Caddyshack. Caddyshack's okay. Happy Gilmore. I'm not a big. I hate the golf movies. I like them. I like to watch them, but you made Matt Damon. And what was that? What movie was he?
Oh, Bagger Vance.
Bagger Vance. Yeah, Matt Damon's a professional golfer, and as a golfer, you watch his golf swing and go, Jesus, I think it'd be easier to teach me how to act than teach him to look like a tour player. I mean, I might not have the same draw as Matt Damon. I might not get the people in the box office like he does. So to try to pass him off as a tour player or Adam Sandler, of course, Adams was a goof, but to try to pass him off, it just never works out for me watching the golf.
All right. Since we're on movies, John Wick or The Equalizer, bigger badass?
Neither. That's another one. I can't make that guy out to be a tough guy. I don't know The Equalizer. Who is The Equalizer?
The one with Denzel.
Yeah, Denzel I can make out to be a tougher guy than I can the guy from The Office. Isn't that the guy that plays?
No, John Wick is Keanu.
Oh, then Denzel. I was thinking, what's the one that the two movies? The Matt Damon's the tough guy. I hate to keep picking on him. What's that one? It's like John Wick.
Oh, Bourne Identity, Jason Bourne.
Yeah, I can't make him out to. I can't think again, I can't see Matt Damon whipping my ass, much less 8 guys coming at him. It's hard to make those guys be a tough guy. I can see Denzel being tough.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is it's kind of like that, is the guy from The Office that plays the tough guy like that. And I can't make him out to be a tough guy, so I don't ever watch him.
No problem. It's a random, rapid question. Let's see. If you could win any tournament in the world, which one would it be?
Masters.
Is it because you get to go back every year?
No, it's just when I grew up in the South. I grew up in the South, and that was the tournament to me. I mean, of course, Europeans, it's the British Open.
Mm-hmm.
Northern and West Coast people, North Coast, West Coast people are more likely the U.S. Open. But Southern boys are all pretty much Augusta.
Yeah, it now that you say that, it seems to be that the anyone who's come on who's been from the South has said Augusta.
Most of us have been there.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of people from our places, because the U.S. Open's never held in the South. It's too hot.
Right.
Pinehurst, I guess, it was held, and it's held in Atlanta once or twice, but it's always held up north or out west. So you've been, maybe as a kid, you go to it and you get that feeling of, I went to Augusta and saw Augusta, and you see it on TV and just think, wow, that would be so much fun.
Yeah, it would. And the last one, greatest of all time, Tiger or Jack?
Tiger. To me, it's not even close. I love Jack to death. I respect that. Watching, I'll tell you this. Here's the story. Tiger, Woody Austin, I caddied for Woody Austin, who ended up, I think he got to 18th in the world. I think at one point in time, I think it was as high as he got. In a 3 or 4 year period, Woody had a great career. So we played against Tiger almost every week. Woody did not beat him one tournament in 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years. Never beat him in one event. That's unbelievable. The guy was 18th in the world. We finished second in the PGA. Tiger won it. And then I thought about that, and I told somebody, I don't know if Lordy, who's now caddying for Matt Wallace. He caddied for Justin Rose. He caddied for Henrik Stenson. He's a Chattanooga boy. He caddied for Robert Carlson in that time. And do you remember Robert Carlson?
Yeah, he was from Norway or Sweden. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. But there was one year he led every major with 18 holes left or something. At one point in time, he led every major one year in that time frame. And he was top 10 or 15 in the world for years. Mm-hmm. Lordy said the same thing. He said he never beat Tiger Woods and all that. Not in one event. If Tiger finished 40th, we finished 41st. If Tiger, not one time did I look back and see our name ahead of Tiger in all that time. That's just amazing to me. That can't happen. You're talking about top 20 in the world, and you can't beat him one tournament. You didn't miss a cut. So if you miss a cut, you definitely lost to him. So.
You know what's amazing is it's almost like once a generation that somebody comes along that raises the level. You had obviously Bobby Jones, then Nicklaus, then Tiger. It's scary to fathom what the next kid that would rewrite Tiger's records is going to do. It's hard to even imagine it's possible.
You think there's no way, but then people that saw Nicklaus go, there's no way anybody ever touch him.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see Tiger. It's coming. Whether we'll get to see it in our lifetime, I don't know. But in our lifetime, I argue with anybody. We've seen the greatest athletes in every sport that's ever lived. I mean, to me, Michael Jordan,
mm-hmm.
Wayne Gretzky in hockey.
Yep.
I personally think Barry Bonds in baseball, I'm sorry, he's still the best I've ever seen. I know he cheated, but everybody was cheating. Everybody. So I think Barry Bonds is the best that's ever played. It's weird, or arguable. What other sports are out there?
Well, you got Usain Bolt is in running.
Pele.
The triumvirate right now in tennis. It's right now Federer's got the lead, but Nadal's might be starting to gas out with injuries and age, and you got Djokovic right on their heels. So,
but he ain't going to catch what Federer's done.
I think he's 4 or 5. They call him Grand Slams back.
Really?
Yeah, he just won another Australian Open.
Think of Serena Williams.
Oh yeah,
absolutely not even She's by far the best that's ever played, the most athletic, the strongest, the best player that's ever played women's tennis. I mean, you even see that about women. And it's not like these are young people.
No, and
all
see,
these guys are retired pretty much.
Right. You see a very you have those dominant players who are now getting towards the end of their careers, and the next wave coming up is kind of there's nobody that wants to really grab anything by the throat. I mean, there's so much money and everything, and they work hard and they want to enjoy other things. But I think that sets the stage for the thing that comes behind them.
That's exactly right.
Right, like when before Tiger came along, the tour was kind of. I mean, you had Norman, who was 300 and some weeks, but outside of him and Faldo in there, and the tour was kind of jockeying back and forth. There was no dominant player.
Exactly. I'll argue, and people think I'm crazy, I'll argue that Phil Mickelson might be the second greatest that's ever played. To do what he's done in Tiger's era? Are you kidding me? Wasn't nobody like that close to Jack. I mean, Arnold Palmer's on the downside of his career, and Watson was on the up, trying to get up. But to me, Tom Watson's not even in the same ballpark with Nicklaus. And they weren't really in the same era, I didn't think. I mean, a little bit, but Tiger and Phil are almost the exact same age. I mean, Tiger's a little younger, but Phil did all that when Tiger was going. And that's pretty amazing to win what he's won, competing against him in every single tournament he played in. I don't think he's played in probably 10 events in 25 years that Tiger didn't play in.
Right, because Brandel likes to knock Phil down, not even, I think he said, in his top 10. But if Tiger's not around, and
what does he win?
What does he win, right?
Yeah. So I'll argue that, and like I say, people will call me crazy, and it probably is a little crazy. But man, it's worth a shot to look at. The guy has won 50-plus times, has he not?
Oh, I think at least.
And I mean,
and how many was he have?
90. So how many tournaments does that eliminate you getting to play to win?
And how many majors he have? He has 3 Masters, a British, 2 PGAs, so he's got 6.
Yeah, and all Tiger's been at every one of them. I mean, that's hard to fathom. I don't remember anybody doing that in Jack's time. I mean, Trevino and Player, but I think Player's way older than Jack, isn't he? Or are they close?
I think he's older and enough older that it wasn't a direct like Tiger and let's see, Phil's I think 2 years older than me and Tiger's 2 years younger, so they're within 4 years of each other.
I don't know how many Phil won without Tiger being out there. I don't know how many. He didn't win that many early. He's 4 or 5 years older than Tiger.
Yes.
Maybe. So he's done most of his damage when Tiger's been out there, and it's just phenomenal when you see Tiger and see what he does. When you actually get to go out on a round of golf with him, it's like, holy shit! This is my guy's trying to beat that guy. And it's not even fair. I mean, he's just as good as great a golfer as Woody Austin and Robert Garrigus does. You just look at him and go, good night. The shots you see him hit, the ball taking off, and just goes straight up in the air. Makes the days. He makes every putt, and he chips in. He chips it like nobody's business. He didn't have a weakness.
Do you see him coming back from his leg injury?
I don't know. I think once we finally get a picture, we finally see a shot of what's going on with his legs. I think we'll know more, but I haven't seen anything. As have you? I've not seen anything.
Just the
car.
Well, the car, but there's been a number on social media of different, not the actual, but here's a rendition of what happened to his leg and his ankle. And I mean, supposedly shattered his right ankle, broke the tibia and fibula. I got those right in 2 or 3 places on I think his right leg, and then broke his left leg as well.
If it's right, and he had multiple compound fractures, right? So I mean, if anybody can do it, it's going to be him.
Right.
I know what little damage I've had. My right ankle was what I had to have surgery on, and I tore up. Actually, I tore it up in Hilton Head. That's where I tore it up, playing basketball at the rec center.
Oh, jeez. Remember we had that golf pro team?
Yeah, we were good, and we had fun, but I turned my ankle there one night, and I should have had a surgery on it. I tore every ligament, but I didn't have the money living in Hilton Head
Mm-hmm.
to go do anything, so I just let it go, and now I'm having issues with it. But it bothered my golf from day one. It has never not bothered my golf. I can't push off my right side. I'm not sturdy because my right outside ankle will give away. There's nothing there to hold it. So
That's the only thing I think going to hold if because it's not like Tiger that's his only injury. I mean, he's got the back fusion, and for him to come back and win, right, with an unstable ankle joint that support is supposed to support everything above it. If he's got to do some compensation to keep that stabilized, what's the effect going to be on his knee and his back and everything else?
We all pray that he gets back and gets back in the game, and because shoot, it's a lot better place with him, that's for sure, and it's a lot more exciting. And the guy has an aura when you're around him that only a few have had. And Jack had it, Norman had it. Just something you walk around, when you get around him, your hair stands up on your arms. You're like, this something electric about this guy. It's something different, and he's such a good person. When you finally meet him and realize that he's pretty normal for what he's went through in his whole life. He's been in the limelight. He's about as normal as you could possibly be to deal with what he's had to deal with his whole life. It's pretty cool to see. And we played with him somewhere out, and it was San Diego, and we're walking down some fairway, and he goes, "Brent, where are you from?" I said, "Chattanooga." I said, "Actually, Ooltewah." Ooltewah is a suburb of Chattanooga. And he goes, Ooltewah. Why is that ringing a bell? And I said, the honors course. You've heard of the honors, right, Pete?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the honors is 5 minutes from me. It's right up the road. And I said, the honors, you won the NCAAs there. And Tiger did. He won the NCAAs. And as soon as I said it, pardon my French, he goes, fuck that place. That's the hardest golf course I've ever played in my entire life. He started laughing. And I started laughing. I go, what? He shot 80 or 81 the last round of the NCAA.
And still won by like 6.
Won by 3.
Okay,
4,
I knew it was a number.
And you know what's amazing? The 2 dudes he beat in the NCAAs, both are still on tour playing. Think about that. The guys that finished second, tied for second or second and third, are both still on the PGA Tour. And so they're 45 years old. He beat J.J. Henry and Rory Sabatini, was who finished second and third. And both of those guys are still on the tour.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. There's not many 40-year-old guys out there anymore.
No.
So, anyway.
All right. If
stupid fact.
Somebody wants to follow you, where can they do so? Social media or?
I'm on Brent Henley. Brent Henley on Twitter. Known as Kip's little brother, more likely. I mean, Kip's got 50,000 followers.
Yeah, you got a big following on Twitter.
I've got 7,000 or 8,000 because I'm riding Kip's coattail, like I've always done. That's about the only place. I don't tweet a whole lot. Kip's on there 24/7. I'm still a Facebook guy. I've still got an AOL email. How many people got that?
No kidding.
It's almost embarrassing now when people ask my email address. I'm like, AOL.com. What? Who the hell still got an AOL account? My old ass does. I'm a caddy. We don't really have to have a whole lot of email.
Right.
That's another good thing about caddying. When you're off, you're off. You come home for a week and there's nobody ringing your phone to come in and do something. That's the great part about it. There's so many good things. There's a few minuses, but there's so much good to it.
I'll link those all in the description and summary, so if anyone wants to follow Brent, what he's doing and what he's chirping about, and if you know anyone that's looking for a looper, one of the best in the game, they can get a hold of you that way.
And once you get out of there, it's hard to stick around. They move on quick.
Mm-hmm.
I might find somebody. I've talked to a couple of guys in the last week and I really want to come back to Hilton Head. Of course, I've had great success with my players there. A lot of great success. I'm more confident there as a caddy than I am anywhere.
Well, come on down. I just found out, and I'm pretty sure this is true, that the RBC Canadian Open
Mm-hmm.
because no one can get into Canada. They're going to have it at Congaree.
What's Congaree? Where's that?
Congaree's a private uh, um, golf club it's an amazing story. I played there last week for the first time, but there's two
Is it in
billionaires.
Hilton Head?
Well, it's in Ridgeland.
Oh, really?
Yes, and it's a Davant, I think it's called Davant plantation. It's like almost a 300-year-old plantation.
I've never heard of it.
Well, it opened. Oh God, how long has it been open? 6 years, 7 years, maybe.
Oh, really?
And it's two billionaires, and to join, I think it's $1 million donation to the trust, which they use to help families in need,
Really?
build local schools, things like that. It's like I mean, everyone that's there has got more money than they'll ever spend, so it becomes like a big charity thing. But everything there is first class. I mean, the ride in. I was telling somebody this morning, it's a winding road, and some of the oak trees on there. The guys in the pro shop told me they had an arborist out that some of them between 250 and 275 years old. They've got to be
Good
15
night.
foot in diameter.
Is it a better drive than going into Spring Island? Tabby Links, man, that's pretty special place.
It probably is because the that road and those trees were planted, or at least the road was mapped out that long ago. Where you're just looking at these oak trees, and I've been in the Low Country now 30 years, and I'm looking at these oak trees like this is amazing. I mean, it's a real old Southern plantation, and the house was 1890. Sherman burned the original house, and then they moved this one from another part of the plantation, I think, to be the main house.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I have to go see it if we come down there if I get down there this year.
Yeah, call Teddy. He'll say, "Hey, Bubba's caddy here."
Yeah,
and we get a group up at Congaree. I'll send you a link to it. It's an the story on the place is amazing.
Teddy loves to play. I just can't beat him. He's no fun to play with.
Didn't you win or almost win the caddy tournament once or twice?
I did win it one year. Yeah,
I thought so.
They don't even have that anymore. It used to be so much fun.
Shit, between that and the foot race on, is it 16 at TPC at Phoenix? How many times you win that one?
I never won that one. I fell. I was the one that I got on. I was not top 10. The butt fumble beat me. I almost got an ESPY off being clumsy. The Sanchez butt fumble kept me from getting an ESPY that year. I would have won number one, not top 10. I took a dive.
Would he give you some shit about that one, saying karma's a bitch?
I was with Garrigus.
Yeah, but I would think Woody would call you up and say, "Hey,
for
this getting back for Aquaman."
I know my buddy, the guy said it's the first base. Tom Goodwin's the first base coach for the Red Sox. He's a really good friend of mine. I remember getting off the golf course, and Kip and I went to eat at Outback that night. We're sitting at the bar, and I get a phone call, and it's Tom Goodwin who'd seen it on ESPN. And he goes, "Man, it looked like a sniper shot you." He said, "Was there a sniper in the crowd?" And then we look up. The ESPN comes on like the 7 o'clock ESPN, the main one, and they open up with the Phoenix Open, and the first thing they show is me falling and Kip, because Kip was with us, right? You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Kip that's who I was racing, and when I fell, and Phil Mickelson's leading the golf tournament in Phoenix, and they open up with showing two caddies racing and me falling, and Kip goes, "Ooh, that ain't good." I go, "What do you mean that ain't good?" I mean, we open up ESPN, that's cool. He goes, "Man, the tour ain't gonna like that." He said they got Phil Mickelson leading the tournament. They're showing two caddies right out of the gate. And sure enough, the next day we came, there was a big sign, "No more caddy races. It's done." So we stopped the caddy races. The tour didn't like that at all. A couple of caddies called us buffoons. One well-known caddy called us a buffoon for doing it. It was not planned. It was not rehearsed. It wasn't on purpose. It was just me being an old man trying to run. I don't know when it is that you fall when you start running. But
and it was popular too. They should have kept that around. That was good entertainment.
I'm telling you, no caddy wanted to do it. They should thank me and Kip for doing it, for falling. I mean, it's a sprint for 150 yards you're sprinting. With a bag on your back. It's hard, and you've already walked 6 or 7 miles. So, anyway, Is that enough content?
Yeah, it's been great catching up. I mean, it's been years since we've been able to do anything, and all the hotel rooms we all hung out together and watched sports and drank beer and told stories. It's great to catch up again and rekindle some of those things and hear some more what you've been up to.
It's good to catch up. I'm glad you had me on. I appreciate it.
If you're going to get down for the Heritage, let me know, because that's in about 3 weeks. Give me a heads up. We'll go play.
I'd say as of right now, we probably. I know unless I get a call from some other player, I won't be down there. But I'll let you know if I am.
Awesome. Say hi to Kit for me, and I'll get you all the links to this and everything. It's awesome as always, Brent.
All right, man. Thanks, Pete.
Have a great one.
See you guys.
Bye-bye. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. If you enjoyed it, you can find more information on today's episode and other topics at golf360.blog. There you'll find the show notes and links related to this episode, as well as any other episode that we've done so far to date. If you're interested in improving your game and would like to learn more from yours truly by taking a private lesson, a half-day or multi-day school, club or putter fitting, you can reach me through the blog site or by email, pete@golf360.blog. So some of you may be asking, what is the golf paradigm? All you have to do is click on the homepage while on my blog site to discover how you can start playing better than you ever thought possible. Or you can simply sign up again on the blog page for my instructional videos where I give regular tips on all areas of the game to include the swing, club design and fitting, health, fitness and nutrition, the mental aspects, and equally as important, the integration of all those things together. I'm also on social media, and you can find me at The Golf Paradigm. That's PARADIGM, and I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, also under the same name, The Golf Paradigm. Facebook is usually the best way to reach me for questions and or comments, and I look forward to hearing what all of you have to say. This podcast is brought to you in part by Old South Golf Links. A short ride across a bridge from Hilton Head Island is one of the area's finest golf courses and a hidden treasure. Set up on towering pines and ancient oaks with sweeping marsh vistas, truly makes Old South Golf Links a one-of-a-kind golfing experience. The Clyde Johnson design was named one of the top 10 new public courses when it opened, and it also takes full advantage of the natural beauty of the Low Country. Old South is a fun and unique challenge for golfers of every skill level and a favorite of both locals and visitors. Whether it's your first time here or you're a regular, you'll be treated and feel like family. From the bag drop to check-in at the fully stocked pro shop with both men's and women's apparel, to breakfast or lunch before or after your round, the staff is always ready and willing to help. Experience for yourself why Old South is one of the premier golf courses in the Hilton Head area and why it will quickly become a favorite of yours too. Visit them in person or online at www.oldsouthgolf.com, or to make it tee time, simply call the pro shop at 843-785-5353.